Hello, everybody, and good evening, and welcome to another edition of Kansas Football Friday, presented by Sports in Kansas. I'm your host, Leon Liebel, along with, from Sports in Kansas, the man who created it. There he is, sliding in. Our man, Chet Copeland. A big night for Chet. We're going to talk about that coming up. But again, you're watching Kansas Football Friday. Is week number 6 for high school football across the state of Kansas. And this is a show that we bring you live action from across the state throughout the next few hours, plus scores, more, live reports, interviews, all kinds of good stuff right here on Kansas Football Friday. And Chet, again, good to see you tonight. And how are things going down in southeast Kansas? You're located tonight. And tell us why.
I'm down in southeast Kansas, downtown Pittsburgh to be exact. You see the brick wall behind me, a little bit different than past weeks out in Wichita. I'm at the location of one of our partners, Sign Brothers, the official partner of Sports in Kansas, offering signs, decals, all kind of stuff, and of course helping high schools, locker rooms, stuff like that across the state. I'm recording here today because I got to go accept an award at halftime at Frontenac High School, where I went to high school, for KWCA Media of the Year. So I'm going to try to make that work tonight. I'm going to be on with you guys for about probably 40, 45 minutes, jump away for 30, come back on and do the third and fourth quarter. But excited to be back down in southeast Kansas. Probably about 4 or 5 weeks ago, last time I've been down here, because I've been all over the place, Leon, on the power of social media tour. But it's good to be back in southeast Kansas. Mike Snow, my co-host on some other radio shows, will join us later on. But I'm excited for week number 6 of the high school football season. I say we're figuring out more about teams, Leon. Are we or are we not? Because all of a sudden we have teams that are 3-0 that are in quarantine, or teams that are still missing games, or teams coming out of quarantine tonight, or we do have teams that are 5-0 and playing another 5-0 team tonight. Some big-time matchups tonight. I think the one that highlights it for me, Dreiling versus Rampy, St. Thomas Aquinas versus Lawrence. Those are not the schools that made those guys famous, though. That was Hutchinson and the Blue Valley programs squaring off for the first time tonight. EKL versus Sunflower League. We'll go to that stream a lot tonight. I'm pumped up for that one. 6A number 1, 5A number 1. I'm ready for football Friday night, week number 6.
Yeah, it's hard to believe. Here we are, already week number 6. And, of course, going back to week number 1, we were kind of wondering how far this season would progress. And here we are. It's been a lot of stops and starts because of the pandemic. But high school football has been it continues across the state of Kansas, and it's been pretty vital, as well as, again, we're going to check on some live action from across the state, scores and more, as we check our screen right now for the games. And your upper left-hand corner, that's good. Anderson County at Frontenac, and that's the game, the Chet Copeland game, I'm calling it tonight, where Chet's going to accept an award. And by the way, again, congratulations, well-deserved on that. And in game number 2 on upper right, that is Eudora at Ottawa. Again, these games just getting underway. And lower left, that is Otis Bison. Oh, it is Lawrence and Aquinas. We do have that up, and that's a big one we want to keep an eye on. Lawrence at St. Thomas Aquinas. And again, Steve Rampy, the head coach at Lawrence High, also was a great coach at Blue Valley. That's where he made his name. And, of course, Randy Dreiling made his, had that dynasty at Hutchinson. Now the head coach at St. Thomas Aquinas, as Chet mentioned, their first time they've ever met. And our feature game, where our own Michael Quaid is shooting the video tonight, that is in Hayes, where Dodge City, the Red Demons, and the all-white coming out into the field. It looks like they'll have the first possession in this game. Oh, it's already, well, this is their first possession, but it's not the first possession of the game, as they are already trailing Hayes 8-0. And this game basically is for the championship regular season of the Western Athletic Conference. These two WAC opponents, Dodge City and Hayes tonight. And we've watched Hayes, we watched both these teams several times this week, or this year, Chad. And, of course, we've talked about Hayes. They got those 3 players, the triumvirate, if you will, of Division I prospects.
Yeah, Hayes is very impressive, and I think the first 4-0 start since 2014 on this team. And you look at them, they didn't play last week, of course. You look on your screen, number 40, the middle linebacker, Gavin Myers. He has multiple FBS offers. He is just a junior, and people would know more about him, but he was injured last year in wrestling. He likely would have been the state javelin champion, and that was all as a sophomore last year. That young man, just a junior, number 40, and just outstanding player there for Hayes. Of course, you look on the defensive end, the number 88, That's Trey Adams. He's 6'7", 230. He's getting looks as well. No FBS offers. And, of course, as you heard Gavin Hazelhorse's name on there, he may be the best defensive end in the state, number 22 to your left corner there. He is headed to Kansas State and a senior. So this is a very good junior-senior Hayes team that, of course, a lot of these guys have played as sophomores, freshmen, and junior, and Tony Crow has it rolling there. Unfortunately, I shouldn't say unfortunately because maybe they can contend, but we talked today on radio statewide and all week of how wide open Class 4A is on the West. Well, Hayes is in 5A this year. They jumped up. So Hayes is one of those teams that's going to be in that battle-tested 5A West, and they're really wishing they were in Class 4A this year.
Again, you're watching Hayes High in Dodge City. Hayes High Indians at home playing at Lewis Field there on the campus of Fort Hays State University. Dodge City Red Demons in the all-white, coming off a 35-14 win last week at home against Great Bend. And, again, that's already 8-0. How about this? This is Eudora at Ottawa. No score in this game as we're just underway in the first quarter.
Jaden Bender, the wide receiver, slid far side. Under center is Reason.
And what can you tell us about these two teams, Chet?
Well, both teams are really struggling. I know Sean Hayden at Eudora is trying to rebuild the program. They have a nice player and receiver, Silas Eder, that I think is going to have some offers, a junior at receiver and, safety type of kid. But Eudora, of course, has had some success. They had some success under Greg Webb a few years back. Of course, the old Claflin coach. Ottawa, they've struggled a little bit here in times, but the brand new field that you see there, Steve Grogan Field, brand new turf there in Ottawa this year. So they're trying to get some things going, but, two Frontier League teams that have kind of been on the other end of things this year so far.
I like that. Steve Grogan Field, of course, Steve Grogan, the former great K-State quarterback, and went on had a great career, NFL career with the New England Patriots. And we are now Frontenac and Anderson County. And again, we've seen this Frontenac team several times this year. They've had quite an interesting schedule, Chad. They've had to dip out of the state and play some larger schools, much larger schools, because of the last-minute scheduling due to the pandemic.
Yeah, it's been very odd, but the thing is, instead of having just 2 games in, Frontenac's got 5 games in. They had to play McDonald County, Missouri a few weeks ago, and they have an enrollment of 1,100. Frontenac's about 270. They had to play Coweta, Oklahoma, although that was scheduled originally on their schedule, which would be a 5A in Kansas and 5A in Oklahoma. So Frontenac is 2-3. But at the same time, you see McCartney, the junior quarterback, going in for the score. He's a very good player. But you look at this Frontenac team, you can't really judge their 2-3 record because they had, I believe, 7 players in quarantine, 5 starters in week 1 in their loss to Columbus. And then the same thing with Coweta, Oklahoma, a much larger school. And their other losses to McDonald County, a team that they weren't expected to win. When they got everybody back and clicking, they beat undefeated Burlington last week on the road 28-12. So this Frontenac team is still capable of perhaps winning their district and contending to go deep in those Class 3A playoffs with head coach Mark Smith.
So they're Dodge City and Hayes back to that game. Looks like Hayes, they had a turnover at Dodge City, got the ball back. Dodge City down 8-0 against Hayes early in that game. Another early score, and we're keeping an eye on this, a big one in Overland Park tonight. The Lawrence Chesty Lions against St. Thomas Aquinas, and Lawrence took its opening possession, or its first possession, and scored. Lawrence Lions up 7-0 over Aquinas. And again, last week we saw Aquinas in a terrific game that we kept an eye on throughout the evening. That was against Shawnee Mission Northwest. And Aquinas, a terrific comeback in the fourth quarter, and then held on to stop a 2-point conversion late in the game and won by 1 point over Shawnee Mission Northwest a week ago. But here's Aquinas with the football going up against Lawrence. Lawrence on top, 7-0 early in the first quarter. As we saw,
of course
the comeback last week. Don't ever count this team out, obviously, even though they're down early.
And the main reason is the guy running the football, Tank Young, a guy that's played for 4 years on this team. He's a senior now. He has an Iowa State offer. The non-senior player of the year 2 years ago on their state championship team from Sports in Kansas. They're very big. They're very physical up front. It's no secret. They're going to run the football. Of course, they've had injuries at the quarterback position, but the offensive line led by Danny Carroll up front, a North Dakota commit. And then you have, of course, Tank Young back there. And then on the other side, Lawrence's offense has the number 1 recruit in the state in Devin Neal, who's going to KU for baseball and football. But this Lawrence team, they're very physical. They're very fast. They fly to the football. A lot of senior and junior offensive linemen on this team and defensive linemen. Cole Mondi leads that defense for them, but Lawrence program very well coached by Steve Rampy, and they are certainly a contender. The number 1 team in 6A versus the number 1 team in 5A tonight, taking place, of course, at St. Thomas Aquinas.
And we want to thank our friends at UClick TV providing tonight's video and broadcast of St. Thomas Aquinas, again, at home against the Lawrence Lions. Lawrence, of course, one of the great traditional powers in the history of Kansas high school football. Just a powerhouse all the way back, well, the 1950s through the 90s and 2000s. Of course, they have not won a state championship, though, since Lawrence divided up into 2 high schools and built Free State High School. But again, Lawrence High, one of the great traditional powers in the state of Kansas, and a pretty good team this year as well. Back to Dodge City and Hayes, and Dodge City coming up with that turnover, trying to get something going here. That's Alden Nedler, quarterback keeper. Saw where he got an offer from Northeastern this week, Chet. I don't know if you saw that. We've talked about him.
Didn't see that, but he's a kid that's definitely on my radar. I think he's definitely an MIAA caliber linebacker. I think he's an FCS type kid. 6'2.5", 210, 215 pounds. He's playing a little bit of quarterback this year, but of course he's a linebacker. And Leon, he is the WAC Conference Defensive Player of the Year. And I just talked about all those D1 guys at Hayes. So that speaks volumes of how good he is. And not only that, by the state's major newspapers and by us and other media outlets, he's on all 6A All-State teams, and of course, sometimes that's hard to do, maybe whenever you're not one of those highlighted Kansas City or Wichita teams, because it's been a long time since the WAC has won a state title. I believe 1999 Garden City.
Garden City over Olathe South at Cessna Stadium. I remember that pretty well. Dave Meadows, the head coach of Garden City. As we bounce back to St. Thomas Aquinas and Lawrence. And Lawrence Lions already up 7-0 in this game, on the move here in the first quarter of play. By the way, you just saw Dodge City punt from their own end zone, and Hayes will get the ball with pretty good field position, great field position. They'll be on Dodge City's 34-yard line to start another possession. But once again, the Lawrence Lions crossing into St. Thomas Aquinas territory here, trying to get on the board again as they lead 7-0.
And they'll run that pistol spread offense. Of course, Jackson Dooley at the quarterback position. You see the left tackle, Noah Smith, number 74, Porter Danovic, guys like that up front. Big and nasty up front on this team. And then you add in the element of the most athletic guy, if not one of the most athletic guys in the region, going to KU for multiple sports. And he had bigger offers than KU, but he's going to stay at home. Of course, number 4 in Devin Neal. But there's a lot of weapons on this Lawrence High School team. And certainly, as I mentioned, a contender here, and that offensive line is really what's going to pace them and give them a deep run. But keep an eye on number 74. He's just a junior, could blow up in the recruiting ranks, and Noah Smith, about 6'3", 295 pounds.
And once again, just a tremendous matchup of 2 of the great coaches in Kansas history. Lawrence High School, Steve Rampy, who again did he win 4 state championships at Blue Valley? And then went on to become offensive coordinator at Pitt State for a while before getting back into high school football.
Yeah, very impressive. 4 state titles, as you mentioned there. I mean, at one point his quarterback was Marty Schottenheimer's son, Brian Schottenheimer, who, of course, went on to the NFL. And there's been so many good players there at the Blue Valley program. And, one of those programs that's not just been good for 10 years. Blue Valley has been good since the 1980s. And at one point, that was the only high school there. So he built that program. Of course, handed it off to the late Eric Driscoll, who did some great things with the state title there, a couple state titles there as well. And, of course, Alan Terrell, the head coach there now. But Steve Rampy left in 2010 and then went to Pittsburgh State and won a national championship as offensive coordinator. And then, Pittsburgh State decided to go some different ways with their offense, and Steve Rampy got the Lawrence job and has really helped elevate that program. Dirk Wedd did do a nice job for many years there. Now, Dirk Wedd, of course, the former coach that retired, is now the director of high school relations, who I keep a good relationship with at the University of Kansas for their football program right there in town. But this Chesty Lions team, very good. Very experienced, and anytime you bring a quarterback back and a running back that started all of your games from a year ago that are high-level players and a very good line, you're going to be trouble for a lot of teams in Sunflower and in 6A. But keep in mind, Leon, this team that you see here, Lawrence, They are on the west bracket of 6A, so it's a little bit weird because they are an East team.
And again, Lawrence High trying to score again here in the first quarter as they are inside the 5-yard line of St. Thomas Aquinas, and he walks right in for the touchdown, and now Lawrence High takes an early 13-0 lead on St. Thomas Aquinas.
Devin Neal on the carry, number 4. And his stats aren't eye-popping this year. For one, they had, of course, a game canceled. And they've won 53-0 against Shawnee Heights, 56-7 against Rushburn Rural, 42-14 at Olathe West, and then they beat State Power Bishop Carroll last Saturday, 37-28. And next week, Leon, they get Olathe North.
And on game 2, we just had a terrific punt as we check out another game in the Johnson County location. That's Mill Valley leading Olathe West 10-0 early. Mill Valley, a team that's been talked about a lot this season from the very first week of the season when they really dominated the Derby Panthers, and which was a surprise for most of us. But Mill Valley, they've had a loss on the season, but again, they're not a team that we can count out. Obviously, they're a very good team up early, 10-0. How about this punt right on that might be the half-yard line.
Yeah, wow. This Olathe West team, Leon, they're just in their 3rd year of varsity football. They've had football for 4 years, played a JV schedule, but you know, some of these kids that are seniors may be the first guys to go through all 4 years of this. And head coach TJ O'Neill for Olathe West is the former offensive coordinator at Mill Valley for 2 of their state title teams. So there's some familiarity here for sure. And of course, these schools normally wouldn't play each other, but now Mill Valley jumped over to the Sunflower League this year. So both these schools are Sunflower League members. And of course, Mill Valley, you can never really judge their schedule on their losses because they play a heck of a schedule for one in past years and this year. And the one year they won a state title in 2016, they had 4 league losses.
Yeah, well, one of their first losses was down in Arkansas this year, so against a good team. And yeah, they're playing a tough schedule. Back to Dodge City and Hayes. Dodge City Red Demons playing some defense early here as Hayes had the ball in great field position to start their third possession, but they could not go anywhere. And Dodge City with the football taking over on downs and trying to get something going on offense. Going back to Lawrence a little bit. Just reading, Lawrence High has won more state championships than any high school in the country. Did I get that right? We're talking about all
like
sports.
Overall, like
all sports.
Yeah,
yes.
Would not surprise me.
Now I know they count state championships before the playoffs, and that's back when they used to do it like college football. They used to vote. They had an AP poll back before 1969, and Lawrence High won a lot of those polls. If you go back and check, as there it is, Lawrence up on St. Thomas Aquinas in the first quarter here, 14-0. And Steve Rampy, the head coach of Lawrence High, going up against Randy Dreiling, the head coach of St. Thomas Aquinas. We got a fumble and a turnover. It looks like Lawrence is going to come up with a fumble recovery. And yes, let's check. Let's listen in.
Quarterback, like he was wearing him as a coach that time. I mean, just took it straight out of his hand right before the quarterback was about to pitch that ball. Carson Green swiped it out of his hand. Ball, and it recovers it, setting up now Lawrence High at the 15-yard line.
Green had the last recovery. It was almost like the same play.
Wow, big turnover as Lawrence High trying to capitalize once again, leading already 14-0. And how surprised are you by this early performance from the Lions?
Well, I'm not necessarily real surprised. Aquinas sometimes is a late starter, but if they can go up here 21-0, that's a big surprise. I did, in fact, you'll see that in a little bit. I do have Lawrence as the favorite tonight in a coin flip style of matchup, but so far I'm wrong right now. But we saw last week what happened, a big comeback, and of course it's going to be 21-0 here shortly. We saw a big comeback last week by this Aquinas team because we had Shawnee Mission Northwest all over them as well, and what happened? They came back and got the win late in that one. But this Lawrence offense is so explosive. And everybody centers around Devin Neal. There's so many other weapons on this team. If they want to line up and get 3-4 yards of carry with this offensive line, they can do that. But they also have Jackson Dooley, who passed for nearly 2,000 yards last year, that nobody's even talking about in the state. I saw some publications across the state that didn't even list this kid in their top 25 quarterbacks coming into the season. I don't know if they don't know about him or who he is or watch Lawrence. This guy's one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the state. So he is definitely a factor not a lot of people are talking about, and this is a very scary Lawrence High School team.
Yeah. Yeah, they are up 14-0 now. Make that 20-0 as they just scored and they're going for the extra point. And I think we have Connor Nickel, our reporter from Western Kansas, on the line. And Connor, how's it going out there? Where are you tonight?
Great. Hello, fellas. I am at Natoma, Kansas. Lynn versus the Tigers. First of all, this is one of the best settings for small town sports. Of course, Natoma is on Highway K-18, about 12 miles due east of Plainville. The field is kind of built up on this hill some. I've been here roughly 5 times over the years. There's a great windmill over there. It is homecoming night. People are in shorts. It is a beautiful fall night. On the field, Lynn, of course, ranked number one in Class 6-man, is up 27-12 at half. They were up 20 zip after the first quarter, and then the Tigers, behind their bruising fullback Caden Martinez, one of those hidden small school gems, came back with 2 second-half scores. Lynn scored right before first half. Of course, Colton McCarty, Lynn's standout quarterback, very, very well known, multiple college offers, has been sacked twice, but has rushed for 3 scores. Again, here at half, in a very key 6-man game, both of these squads had perfect marks coming in, 27-12.
And Connor, talk about how popular 6-man football has gotten in Kansas really over the last 4 or 5 seasons. I know we've had more teams added. Of course, a lot of teams not high in enrollment, and we've seen 6-man football now become pretty popular in Kansas. Kind of speak on that, how it's elevated over the last several years.
Certainly, and I remember when it first started, summer of, I believe it was 15. I called Mark Coles, who of course is now at Nest City, but of course was at Weskin for a very, very long time. And Weskin was really going down in numbers, was not going to have a season. And Coles felt, you know what, we're going to go play 6-man. They put together a schedule. Greeley County was part of that schedule. Several teams more out west were also on that. Prior to then, it had been 10-plus years, and Herndon, way up by the Atwood area, had played 6-man against out-of-state schools. So it was really neat to kind of see 6-man coming back. You saw a lot of schools, certainly Golden Plains, Lynn, Rolla, Fowler, Ashland too, teams who just were struggling in 8-man and just simply put had good players, just not enough of them. Natoma too, they had struggled as well. Last year they were over 500 for the first time in I believe 9 seasons. Tonight they have 9 total players. Obviously Lynn has come on really strong, returning basically their entire team from last season. And it's such a great sense of pride, especially Colton. I've talked with him several times. He's a great guy, and it's so cool to see these towns fight for something. Lynn, of course, has never won a state title ever in any sport. And I talked to Colton this summer about that. Of course, Lynn was second last year in 6-man. Golf one year, they were second. Said, Colton, what would it mean to win that Wild West Bowl championship? And he goes, Connor, it's going to be so cool that if we win that, I will get to walk through the school saying, look at that. We won that. I've been to Shiloh several times, and it means a lot to these towns and teams to be playing ball again.
Hey, Connor, I know six-man football is not affiliated with the Kansas State Activities Association, but with the sport growing, more teams, do you see a chance where it's going to be an official part of the Acacia?
Yeah, and it really, I mean, kind of that magic ballpark number is 24 teams. Remember talking with Acacia folks back then, Coach Coles, Terry Osmeyer, who's a great guy. He was the longtime Grainfield AD, always had told me 24 was kind of that magic number. It's kind of in that mid-teens right now. But there's a number of them, other teams, Wilson, Lynn, Blue Valley Randolph, certainly others too that have definitely been mentioned in that conversation. The issue with the more you go further east is just simply scheduling. Right now this game starts at 6 p.m. because Shiloh's got to go, 3 hours to get here. I know next week, kind of a quirk in the schedule, Cunningham is going to play, I believe, Ashland at Ness City at 2:30. And then at 7 p.m., Ness City will play Meade. So six-man teams getting very, very original in just having games. Coach Corey Dunlap, who coached Natoma last year and is now Cunningham's principal. He's a great, great friend. We've been friends for years. He texted me after the first week, after Cunningham won their first on-field game in many, many years, just how proud he was for Cunningham to come back and win. But I think for this game to grow, there's going to have to be more schools out east who say, yes, we'll play, and frankly, we'll travel.
As far as we talk about, I say this a lot, and I'm a big advocate, of course, for high school athletes in Kansas, no matter if that's six-man or 6A, as are you. And you know the small schools as good as anybody in the state, specifically West. Some places that you may have to drive 2 hours to get to a Walmart. Really, whenever I say this, there are players at all levels. Talk on that, because you see some of these kids that may not get highlighted, maybe if you or I don't look at these players. And, yeah, I'm not talking about your Harlan Oboyas or guys like that, but maybe somebody can help out Hayes or Benedictine or Bethel, Baker, whoever it happens to be, Pittsburgh State. Connor, there are players from 6-man to 6A.
Oh, 100%. Completely. And Colton obviously is extremely well known. I'll be honest, he could start for any team in Kansas. Of course, he wouldn't play quarterback for everybody, but he would start for anybody. He has simply put that good slot DB, returner, something. He'll definitely play in college. Obviously, several have offered. I've always felt Drew Shields, the other senior from Shiloh, about 195. Shiloh mainly plays him in the backfield. Chet, you and I have definitely texted about Shields. I believe Andrew Shields is a true college player. Certainly KCAC level. He's got a great frame, a great body, and he moves well. Sometimes big guys, they don't move as well side to side. Coach Ryan Cornelson always told me, hey, and who's coached from 2A all the way to 6A, watch how the big guys move side to side. Shields does that very, very well. Again, Caden Martinez for the Tigers, well over 100 yards on the ground in the first half, well over 200 pounds, a big guy. He's a guy that colleges should definitely check out. I go back a few years, Pawnee Heights, Cade Scott. It was really a shame that he did not get more college looks. I know K-State had talked to him. I know there were other factors in play, but Cade Scott was a great player for Pawnee Heights in two sports, and he should have gotten a college look. And obviously, eight man, we could go through many guys, but just to name three. Colin Juneman, Hanover, Chadron Blanca, from Saney. There's about 5 kids on Saney. And of course, Grainfield's got Trevor Zarabenicki, who definitely could play KCAC ball. He got a big off for a couple weeks back and could even go higher too. But right now, St. Francis has probably got 5 kids who could play college ball.
And we're visiting with Connor Nickle, our Western Kansas reporter here on Kansas Football Friday. And we've been watching Hayes High and Dodge City up there on the screen. And Connor, I want to ask you real quick. I know you follow Hayes a little bit. How do you see that game tonight? Is Hayes is leading 8-0 early on Dodge City. I know you're not there at that game, but just how you see it shaping up tonight.
Well, obviously Hayes High did not play last week. They had the opportunity to play McPherson. They've been banged up. Canick, of course, their tremendous junior, has been banged up. They've had some other key guys kind of banged up. The big thing I wanted to see from Hayes High tonight was how explosive they could be offensively. Obviously, Capon had beaten Dodge City relatively by a solid margin, and I feel like Capon and Hayes High are very similar teams. And so I was really curious, not necessarily if Hayes High could hold Dodge down, which I think they definitely could do, but how many points could they score? How dynamic could Hayes High be? One quick thing here, we've seen May South be really great on defense the last several years, but not be as dynamic in the playoffs, which you really have got to be in 5A. I wanted to see Hayes High really create a lot of scoring opportunities to unite.
Well, Connor, as always, we appreciate you coming on Kansas Football Friday. Great work out there, man. Enjoy the 6-man game tonight, and we'll find all your reports tomorrow up at Sports in Kansas. Safe travels, man.
Hey, certainly, fellas. Hey, you guys have a great night, as always.
All right, Connor, thank you so much. Again, Connor Nickle, our Western Kansas reporter here on Kansas Football Friday, as we're checking live action from across the state of Kansas. And we'll provide you with live updates throughout the state as we were checking out that St. Thomas Aquinas and Lawrence game. Lawrence leading 20-0. Dodge City down 8-0. Red Demons defense has done a pretty good job since going down 8-0, but they're having problems moving the ball on offense, as you saw that incomplete pass right there. Hayes High leading 8-0 that game now in the second quarter there at Lewis Field on the campus of Fort Hays State University. And St. Thomas Aquinas now on the board. And Chet, we just mentioned, don't count this team out as they kick the extra points now 20-7. Lawrence on top.
Yeah, I mean, you see week in and week out Eastern Kansas League competition. I'm very repetitive in saying that, but I've seen so many of these games over the years to know how good, of course, some of the Mill Valleys, the Blue Valleys, the Mieges, the Blue Valley North, they're not seeing anything that they haven't seen, is what I'm saying. Of course, Devin Neal is an exceptional athlete, but so was Graham Mertz, and so was Carter Putz, and so was Jafar Armstrong, and, of course, all the guys that have been in the Eastern Kansas League all the years. So this isn't anything that they haven't seen. They saw an exceptional quarterback last week in Ty Black, the coach's son, Bo Black there, and I don't know if they ever ended up picking a game up tonight, which I feel bad because they only had 3 games. So here we are in week 6, and they've only gotten to play 3 games, and that kid's going to the Air Force Academy at the next level, and if there were camps and combines this summer, I think that kid would have a Big 12 offer.
Yeah, Ty Black was exceptional last week, leading his team. He got him out to the big lead and then almost brought him back with a potential game-winning touchdown. They just went for the extra two-point conversion to try to win the game. They did not get it, but he was incredible last week. Again, his father, Bo Black, the head coach there at Shawnee Mission Northwest. I think I was saying Olathe Northwest earlier, but Shawnee Mission Northwest. And once again, Dodge City has to turn the ball over on downs. Their offense not going anywhere against this Hayes High defense. Hayes leading 8-0 in the second quarter in this Battle of Western Athletic Conference. And I guess we have a special guest who's going to be actually filling in for Chet here for the next few minutes. And Mike Snow joins us, another Southeast Kensan. How you doing, Mike?
Good. How's it going, guys?
And Mike will be filling in here shortly as Chet goes to accept his award. No, again, congratulations to Chet. And Mike, what can you tell us? What's going on down there?
Well, I've been keeping a close eye on the Pittsburgh High game just down the street from where Chet is. I'm actually right across the street from from Frontenac, Anderson County, and the Raiders seem to be in control. But Chet, I'm a little shocked at the way Pittsburgh High's bounced back in this one. 7-7 game. They've done a pretty good job on Crawford and the Barber kid, the outstanding junior running back for Pittsburgh High's, over 80 yards already, just a couple of minutes into the second quarter, and it's a 7-7 ball game.
Yeah, and they're playing a Lansing squad that, of course, has a Division I player in Caden Crawford. And Lansing's been a surprise this year in Class 4A. Pittsburgh's been a little bit inconsistent, as Mike will tell you. And I think there's been a lot of inconsistency this year, Mike. I mean, do you feel like that? I mean, quarantine, not really getting in the rhythm of things. I mean, Frontenac without their quarterback for a couple weeks, as you see McCartney on the screen right now. We can't really label or judge a team, can we, Mike, because of quarantine and reps and different things like that? You may have a 3 or a 4 out there playing because you have the first 2 guys in quarantine.
Well, yeah, to give you an idea, Tom Nicholson, the Pittsburgh High football coach, told me in the preseason he was pretty ecstatic about the offensive line as well as the running back and felt good about the running game. And the right tackle before the Labette County game gets in quarantine. The left tackle gets rolled up on an extra point attempt in the pregame practice before week 1. So you go from feeling pretty good about your offensive line to having 2 tackles out and a lot of question marks across the board and guys that hadn't got a lot of reps. And, you know, that story, I'm sure we can copy and paste that to several schools across the state of Kansas. You plan on these guys starting and either in quarantine or a freak injury, they're not there. And I feel like the Dragons have just trying to build themselves and dig themselves out of a hole. You know, last week, the Cape and Mount Carmel game, 49-0, they ended up losing. They were down 14-0, had it first and goal, turned it over, had a bad pick in the end zone, and it was just one of those deals that got away from them and a little bit mismatched. But they've had so many issues up front, and it's really hard to judge from week to week with any of these teams with how do you know who's out? And you mentioned Frontenac, 5 starters out week 1, including Colin McCartney, including 3 starting receivers and an offensive lineman. Those guys being a 3A school also play both ways. That's a factor as well. So you lose 5 starters or 5 guys that turn into 8 or 9 starters on both sides of the ball, and not even mentioning special teams. So this 2020 year has been kind of crazy. And as you guys and I were talking before we came on air, we're just fortunate that we've made it here to week 6, and it appears that, you know, barring some hiccups along the road and probably the rest of the way, that we are going to get the season in.
Mike, speaking of quarantines and the pandemic, full disclosure here, you're in quarantine right now. And how are you doing? You did test positive, is that correct?
That is correct. I normally would be calling the Frontenac game tonight and tested positive on Monday. It's been pretty smooth. I've been fortunate, unlike some folks here in the community. I've been asymptomatic. I haven't had any of the issues that everybody else has had. And, you know, I will get released Tuesday at midnight. And Leon, let me tell you, I've got a clock here on my wall. You can't see it. That is on a countdown to get out for sure. But, you know, missing high school football Friday nights and, you know, at least appreciate you guys for letting me come on here for 30, 45 minutes to fill in for Chet to receive yet another award and just to get a high school football fix in here on Friday night. And this show, the way it's produced and the way you guys do it is just phenomenal.
Well, good to hear, Mike. Good to hear that you're feeling good, too. Go ahead, Chet. I'm sorry.
I'm actually going to Taco Bell down the road. I'm not really accepting an award. I'm just going to get my Baja Blast and quesadilla at the halftime here. But all joking aside, Mike, you're, of course, the GM of a radio group that I do a lot of shows with. And, you know, it's been a weird year because, of course, you're selling advertising. You're putting packages together for Pittsburgh State. And all of a sudden, Pittsburgh State and Southeast Kansas, Emporia, Fort Hays State, Washburn, Northwest Missouri, all these towns, they are known for football on Saturdays. We've not had any football in any of these towns this year in the MIAA. It has been extremely weird. But good news, of course, 5 games going to happen this year for Pittsburgh State. I believe 2 of them at home. Speak on that, how weird that has been this year, being in a community like Pittsburgh, without Pittsburgh State being in town and the economic impact that the Gorillas bring to town?
The dollar amount that you can't even really put it on it. When you talk about a Saturday at Pittsburgh State and all the people from the Kansas City, Wichita, Tulsa, Northwest Arkansas area, and all the fans that it brings to town, and all the players from these great programs. There's Aquinas kids, there's Lawrence kids on this, there's kids over on the Missouri side of Kansas City as well, across Southwest Missouri, and Coach Brian Wright, the new head coach, the former offensive coordinator at Toledo. We've been anxiously awaiting his young, energetic staff that he's put together. And, spring ball, they got 2 practices in, they shut it down. And then the season was going to start, and then they pushed it back, and then they canceled it. And now they're going to get, as Chet mentioned, 5 games. They will play Kearney, Nebraska, here in Pittsburgh on Halloween to open up the season, then up to Missouri Western. And then they get the rare chance with the MIAA, and something you and I have talked about a lot, Chet, having closed conference scheduling, going to play Stephen F. Austin and play down in Nacogdoches, Texas against an FCS program. So that'll be a good opportunity for them. And not to mention, they just added on November 21st, Western Colorado, and then we'll finish their 5-game season on Thanksgiving weekend against West Texas A&M, one of the top 10 ranked teams in Division II. So it's just been kind of one of those things, much like NFL, college, and what we've had at the high school. You just plan on moving forward with the season, and you hope that these kids will get an opportunity to play, because anytime you're in a first-year staff situation, such as the Gorillas and many other schools around the country are, you would like to just see the product that you have, and as a coaching staff moving forward with recruiting in the offseason and some of the holes you need to fill as the season progresses.
And again, you're watching Kansas Football Friday. I'm Leon Lieb along with Chet Copeland and Mike Snow joining us tonight. Going to be filling in for Chet here in a few minutes as he goes off to, once again, accept, as Mike mentioned, another award, and well-deserved for Chet Copeland. Right now we're watching Hayes High and Dodge City Red Demons. Dodge City and Hayes in the WAC conference. Hayes leading that game 8-0 in the second quarter. Looks like Dodge City had possession on their own 1-yard line to start that drive. Hey, Mike, I want to ask you about Pitt State again. Originally, MIAA wasn't going to play. Now we got 5 games. What prompted them to say, hey, we can actually play? Did they take their cue from like the Big Ten maybe, or what happened there?
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. At the point when Pittsburgh State announced there was over 1,000 high school games played at that point in the season in the state of Kansas, and there had been some quarantines and some issues, but no positive cases at that time tied to a football game. And so they came up with a 3-team alliance: Nebraska, Kearney, Missouri Western, and Pittsburgh State. Their administrations of those 3 schools, more than any other in the MIAA, said from day one, even though the season's canceled, we are going to try to figure something else out. And Stephen F. Austin reached out to those 3 schools and going to play each of those MIAA schools. Then the RMAC was kind of in the same boat. Not all of the teams from the RMAC decided to play. Western Colorado kind of showed up to the party late, and they booked a game with Pittsburgh State just last Wednesday to complete the 5-game schedule. But I think it was a couple of things, Leon. one, a first-year situation with a new staff, and 2, the SEC, the Big 12, the ACC, and certainly here 1,600 games into the high school season, and things seem to be going better than what I think most of us expected before the season started, and that allowed Pittsburgh State to, with a limited crowd, they're going to allow about 1,600 fans in, limit access to the boxes, nobody in the sideline, and so they're going to try to get it done. And kind of a strange decision there on that Dodge City game for them to take the step and take the safety here early in the second quarter.
That's funny because a couple weeks ago we saw Dodge City punting deep out of their own end zone. They had it blocked. It was against Garden City. Had a block for a touchdown. So I guess they decided it was better to take the safety there. That just the 2 points give up instead of 6. So they take a safety, and now they're down 10-0 against Hayes. As we switch back, this is Anderson County at Frontenac tonight. And again, we talked about Frontenac as they played a wacky schedule because of the pandemic this year.
Yeah, they have. And the schedule, when it first originally came out, one of their league opponents, Riverton, had dropped Frontenac in week 2. So they went down to Coweta, Oklahoma, a little community just to the east of Tulsa, Class 5A. Have some really big kids and a really good storied program. They are rivals with Wagner, Oklahoma, one of the powers in Class 4A in Oklahoma. They lost to them in week 1, 28-0, and then came to came to Frontenac, and the Raiders battled, had it a 6-point game towards the end of the third quarter, and just those big schools, 750 students, would be a good 5A in Kansas. Just wear it on them with their depth and throughout the game, and had some guys, had a sophomore receiver that ran a 10.65 in the Class 5A Oklahoma State tournament last year, state track meet, and broke out some big plays in the second half. And then when their game was canceled with Iola on Wednesday, they were able to pick up Mack County, Missouri, out of the Big 8 conference. And those folks that aren't aware, it's just to the east of us in southwest Missouri, and it is a very, very good league. Since 2007, they've had 4 different teams combined for 11 state titles and 5 runner-up in the Class 2 to Class 3 classification. So Mack County is a team that's currently in first place in the Big 8 conference there, and 1,120 students roughly. And that was a big matchup. And then Frontenac is a team we talked about with so many guys out. I feel like they haven't really played a game with their full squad yet. Tonight, they were expecting their starting line, offense and defense, to make their first start here into week 6.
And after Dodge City took that safety, running out of the end zone on the punt, giving up 2 points, they're down 10-0. Hayes High now with the football. Once again, Dodge City's defense, though, since giving up that initial touchdown in this game, has played pretty well. As our feature game was our own Michael Quaid at Lewis Field tonight, providing us with the video there. As Dodge City in the all-white, the Red Demons against the Hayes High Indians. I know football is a big deal down in southeast Kansas, and we talked about that with Pitt State and, of course, all the high schools. Another factor down there, junior college football has always been big with Independence and Coffeyville. I would assume the fans are really missing that this year as the Jayhawk Conference. So far, they say they're still going to play in the spring, and one of those things, I'll believe it when I see it, I guess.
Yeah, the thing about that, Leon, that is how are they going to handle eligibility? Because typically you play in the fall as a freshman, you go to school in the spring, you play in the fall as a sophomore, and then as soon as the season's over, whether you sign D1, D2, KCAC, whatever out of junior college, you leave that spring semester. Guys that are heading into the sophomore year now, I feel like are going to miss out on some opportunities to play at the small Division I level because or the big Division I level, because you're going to have a season, and by the time the season's over, spring ball is going to be over. So I'm like you, I'm a little skeptical. Maybe they will play, but some of the top recruits that we're so used to seeing in the Jayhawk Conference may get offered and leave before the season even starts, and that will certainly be a big X factor as well for the Jayhawk Conference.
And as we check out Dodge City again against Hayes High, the Indians just came up a first down there in that pass completion. Hayes High leading Dodge City 10-0 on this game as we keep an eye on our feature game of the week, as the winner of that game will win the Western Athletic Conference. Back to the big one in Overland Park tonight. St. Thomas Aquinas taking on at home tonight against Lawrence. Lawrence out to a 20-0 lead in this game. Aquinas has come back with a touchdown. It's now 20-7 in the second quarter. Mike, we talked about the two coaches in this game. First time Steve Rampy and Randy Dreiling have ever coached against each other, two of the best coaches in the history of Kansas. You're familiar with Steve Rampy because after he was head coach at Blue Valley, he went down to become the offensive coordinator at Pitt State.
Yeah, very familiar with Coach Rampy. And his second year in the 2011 season, Pittsburgh State won the national championship with him calling the plays. And the leader on the defense was Nate Dreiling, the Hutch High standout, and Randy's son. And those two have a lot of history together. And the thing about this game, when it was 20-0, I was sitting here watching this on your guys' feed thinking, you know, if Randy's defense can get a stop and they get the young kid, Tank Young, going, they're going to have an opportunity. And here they are knocking on the door in a goal line situation. And, you know, that's just a surprise that the way Lawrence jumped out on him this early, because with Mill Valley and Aquinas, I know those schools are just in the 5A classification, but and we'll see Chet's rankings coming up here at halftime. And I know Mill Valley's dropped some games, won to Bentonville, Arkansas, and upset last week to Gardner Edgerton. But I would still take over a majority of the team, especially what Mill Valley did to Derby in week 1. I would match up Aquinas and Mill Valley and pick them over most of these schools. And here they are, linked to the football away from making it a one-score game.
Let's listen in on this game, see if Aquinas can get it in the end zone.
Has responded well.
Aquinas just put a tackle in at tight end on the left side of their offense.
Quarterback keeper Ford is in there. Touchdown, Saints.
A real good push by the Aquinas front line.
Pretty good timing right there. And, yes, a really good push by that left side of the offensive line. And, once again, you cannot count out St. Thomas Aquinas. We've seen this week in and week out. Down 20-0 in this game, and extra point could make it a 20-14 game. By the way, our Dodge City game, Hayes has scored again, and they missed the extra point, now 16-0 in Hayes High leading Dodge City.
Yeah, big possession coming up here for Dodge City with being down 2 scores. You don't want to go into the locker room down more than that, especially in a game that you're heavily favored. As we joined Pittsburgh High, Caden Barber, the sophomore, with the Dragons down 14-7 with a good run inside the 30. So this is another one of those games, Leon, that Chet and I talked about this through the week. I felt like Lansing probably a 2 or 3 touchdown favorite in this one, and the Dragons are finding a way to move the football and hang around in this one.
Obviously, another school of a great football tradition. Of course, we talked about Southeast Kansas, and Chet certainly has informed me about the tradition of that area. But the Pittsburgh Dragons and moving the ball right now. Now, this is a game you would be doing tonight, Mike?
I would be calling the front net game.
You get the front net.
Yep.
But you keep an eye on all these teams, obviously.
Yep.
And this is Lansing at Pittsburgh.
And, of course, the Crawford kid is a commit to Nebraska, 6'4", 230-pound quarterback from Lansing. And, Coach Nicholson told me this earlier in the week that they were going to have some issues trying to get him stopped. And so far, so good. They're hanging around here, and a score would give them a little bit of momentum here before halftime.
And back to, this is Paola at Paola. Panthers at home tonight against KC Piper. It's a pretty good game. Paola leading 13-8 as Piper just scored and got the 2-point conversion as we just checked in on that game. KC Piper, we saw them last week. Back to Hayes and Dodge City against the Hayes High Indians. Hayes with the football and Dodge City's defense. And I misspoke. Hayes did get the extra point. It was 17-0 Hayes now in the second quarter there in that battle of WAC rivals. And back to St. Thomas Aquinas, where Lawrence now leads 20-14. They were up 20-0.
Yeah, you look at the offensive defensive line, and Aquinas is a team that, going back to 5A districts, that Pittsburgh High has played year in and year out. And, the Randy Dreiling factor, and I know people want to talk about recruiting at the high school level or whatnot, but when you're in that area there in Johnson County and you bring a guy that had the success at Hutchinson, and if you're a football player that may be at one of the public schools that's not very good, that's not getting the recognition, a guy like Randy Dreiling attracts you there. And, look at that offense and defensive line. They have got some dudes up front there, and that's been the constant theme since Coach Dreiling has been there. And, I know he's very fiery. I personally like his coaching style. I like the way he can turn programs around. And Aquinas has had a good program in years past, but nothing like what Randy Dreiling has elevated it to. Now, he didn't have his work cut out for him like he took Hutchinson over on a 26-game losing streak several years ago, but still Aquinas was kind of a middle-of-the-pack team in the EKL, and you got to give Coach Rampy and Lawrence some credit here as they are bouncing back with all the momentum on the side of the Saints right now.
Yeah, Lawrence in the red pants, the white jerseys, black helmets, going up against St. Thomas Aquinas. Home game for the Saints. Seems like the Saints have played a lot of home games every time we check in on them this season. And St. Thomas Aquinas in those Notre Dame-like uniforms. Right there, just on the west edge of Overland Park. They're about as far west in Overland Park as you can. They're on Flum. As you go on the other side of Flum, you're in Olathe. But St. Thomas Aquinas, it's kind of a neat little field. It's tucked in a snug area there, some great surroundings, and they've got it going there with Randy Dreiling trying to get another state championship. He's got one. He got that 2 years ago. Of course, was upset in the semifinals, and Mill Valley, I guess that was, maybe upset's not the right word, maybe a bit of a surprise, and Mill Valley went on to win the title last year over Wichita Northwest. There's Dodge City trying to throw the ball, and that's Tucker Smith, I believe, is quarterback as he throws it away out of bounds. And again, Dodge City's offense struggling in this game, down 17-0 against Hayes High.
Yeah, if they could figure out to get some points on the board here, and you're talking about a rivalry game, and they've hung around enough in this in the first half, if they could get it to 17-7 to halftime and take a little bit of momentum in, it's a situation where Hayes may be thinking about next week or putting them away. And we've seen this too many times at every level of football. If you can't, once you have your chance to kind of step on the throat of the opponent, and Dodge City has an opportunity to kind of get up off the mat, much like we've seen Aquinas do here, down 20-0 just a few moments ago, and a good pass there to completed to about the 30-yard line, and looks like it's going to be a big third down coming up here for the Saints defense.
And the Red Demons of Dodge City just had a nice little run as well as they got close to the first down marker and not quite there, about a yard shy. Again, trailing 17-0 against Hayes. You're watching Kansas Football Friday, presented by Sports in Kansas. I'm Leon Liebel along with Mike Snow, who's sitting in right now for Chet Copeland. Chet will be back a little bit later in the show as he is over at Frontenac receiving an award for Kansas Media of the Year. And we've got another turnover. Dodge City turns it over. Fumble, and Hayes recovers, and that's a tough one for the Red Demons right there.
Yeah, especially limited contact, and that's number 22, the Hazelhorf kid that's going to K-State, and Chet talked about him in the opening of this broadcast being one of the top defensive ends. And when you come with that type of notoriety from Sports in Kansas as being one of the top DNs in a big game, big third down conversion, and your defense needs you, he made a big play there.
Yeah, Gavin Hazelhorst, one of those kids that, he's been noticed for what he's done on the field during games, but he also really opened up some eyes. I know some of the combines and some of the camps this summer, as he's very athletic, and it looks like he's going to be a good one for K-State to pick up. Again, Hayes High now with the football trying to add to their 17-0 lead. Again, this game in the second quarter at Lewis Field at Fort Hays State. Mike, what's your alma mater?
Columbus High School.
Ah, yes, I know Columbus. So you're a Southeast Kansas native.
Yep, and they're in a battle in a big Class 3A District 1 matchup. Last report, second quarter, they were leading 7-6 against Galena. They really developed quite the rivalry in that district in the CNC League over the last several years against the Galena Bulldogs.
Hayes High trying to pick up a few extra yards here on the run toward the near side. Breaks a tackle. Again, Hayes leading 17-0. The winner of this wins the regular season title of the Western Athletic Conference, a title Dodge City won a year ago. It's been kind of a strange year for the Red Demons. They lost to Garden City, took care of Liberal big, 35-0. Liberal turns around and defeats Garden City. It's been that kind of year. We talked about that earlier with Chet, though. It's really hard to get a grasp of any trends this season. I think a lot of that has to do, of course, with the weird schedules and the pandemic games getting called off. And, of course, some teams maybe don't have all their players one week to another that we don't even know about.
The thing that has really stood out to me, and I think it's a good sign for the kids as well as the game of football in Kansas, is there's been several occasions, not only here locally, Leon, but across the state of Kansas, when a game on early afternoon on a Wednesday gets canceled. You know, back in week 2, Girard lost their game due to a pandemic on Wednesday. Pratt lost their game, and they, in a little over 20 hours, put together a matchup against Pratt in El Dorado. And I think the administration, the coaching staff, the parents, the communities of these small town high school football areas that we have throughout the state find the importance of getting these games in for these kids, because we don't know, is week 2 the end of the season? Well, it wasn't. Could week 6 be the end of the season? We seem to be moving, as we've talked about here on the show a few times, but don't you think that's a positive sign for the game of football as well as the communities in Kansas? It's a lot of work to hook up with somebody 20 hours before kickoff to pull a game off.
Oh, it's been amazing that on Wednesday, we've heard teams make phone calls, get a field, find a field to play, even on neutral sites, and they've been able to pull it off. By the way, Frontenac just scored again there, as we saw, and they're up 33-7 now in Anderson County. So that's good news for your Frontenac team down there.
Yeah, and the Anderson County's the team started out 3-0 and blown out everybody. They come down to Girard in their first district game, week 4, had 3 linemen out, either to injury or COVID. Their quarterback gets hurt early in that game, and they lost that game 41-0. And then due to a scheduling cancellation with Iola, picked up Linden last week and lost 56-6. So if you don't think this pandemic can affect a football team, you go from being 3-0 and having a really, really good year under the Silver Lake product, Logan Pegram, and then you lose 97-6 in 2 games in a row. And they are getting some of their guys back. They don't have everybody back yet, but this is an Anderson County team. If they could get everybody back and get into a top 4 seed in that district and make the playoffs, we could see them win a game or 2 in the playoffs.
Talking about the strange scheduling and then mix and matching, I guess you would call it. Another game I thought was interesting. Tonight, Wellington is playing Ulysses. That game is being played in Dodge City. It's a little bit of a travel advantage for Ulysses. They're a little closer to Dodge, but the kind of meeting as much halfway as they can, and we've seen that several times this season. I think we had Pratt and I can't remember who Pratt played, but they played at Butler Community College in El Dorado. That was kind of a neutral. It was a neutral game site.
Against the Girard Trojans,
that's right,
just down the road. Yep. And, talk about Ulysses. Last year, they played a home and home over the last 2 seasons with Pittsburgh High. They played a home and home with Chanute. And then with the playoffs in week 8 last year, they went to McPherson in the final game of the regular season, and then turned right around, or I believe it was Abilene maybe, and then they turned right around in week 9, first round of the playoffs, and drove back to Abilene. And Chet and I talked a lot on our daily radio show about Ulysses actually putting more miles on road games than what Pittsburgh State does, trekking across the MIAA.
Yeah, it is amazing. Ulysses, again, a 4A school kind of on an island out there in southwest Kansas, as they're the only 4A school. I think we figured out Great Bend was the nearest 4A school to Ulysses, so that tells you about what some of their traveling plans have. And as we again watch Hayes High moving the ball against Dodge City up 17-0 in the second quarter. Another game we've been keeping an eye on up there in Overland Park. Number 1 in 6A, Lawrence. Number 1 in 5A, St. Thomas Aquinas. Lawrence leading 20-14 as that game now is at halftime. Incomplete pass there for Hayes going to the end zone. Here's a new game. This is down in South Barber, near the Oklahoma state line in Kiowa, as it is Otis Bison at South Barber. And South Barber leading 22-12.
It's always good to check in with the 8-man guys. And, you think of some of the issues that we've talked about for Coach Dreiling and the 5A and 6A programs during a pandemic. When you've got 11, 12, 15, 20 guys on your team, when you start getting guys quarantined, that really puts you behind the 8 ball for an 8-man team.
And I never thought about this until Chet Copeland brought up a couple of weeks ago. We were talking about Otis Bison, but he told us he had a friend who always thought Otis was called the Bison. That was their nickname. They were the Otis Bison, but no, it's a consolidated school, 2 towns, Otis and Bison, and they are the Cougars, and they are in they're the home team here.
Yeah, that friend
or the away team here.
That friend he's talking about is actually me. And
no! I did not know that.
A funny story is the guy that is the imaging voice of our radio station. His name's Chris Elson. He works out of our Hayes studios for MyTown Media. Chris Elson is an Otis Bison alum who is the production guy and does the voice, the intros and outros for all of our high school football, as well as the imaging for our ESPN sports station. So that's how that story all kind of came about 4 or 5 years ago. Chris and Chet had a really funny laugh about that because everybody just referred to him as the Otis Bison. And, with North Dakota State and playing Pittsburgh State so much when I was in college, I just thought, that they were just the Bison.
You might not be the first one who made that mistake, but
Yeah.
it's good. It's a good story. Hey, you're watching Kansas Football Friday, presented by Sports in Kansas. I'm Leon Liebel along with Mike Snow. We're going to take a break. We'll be back with more action right after this.
I don't know about you, but I'm glad to be open and back to business. These last few months have been hard on everyone. Here at Lewis Automotive Group, we've always promoted buying local, and now it's more important than ever. As our economy gets up and going, let's protect the people closest to us. Support our local businesses first. Together, we can put all of this behind us quickly while still keeping safety at the forefront. From all of us at Lewis Automotive Group,
be smart, be safe, and buy local.
How do you see the world?
At Shriners Hospitals for Children, we know that changing how you see things can turn them into everyday miracles.
Like riding my bike.
Breaking boards. Hugging my mom.
Every day for over 90 years, Shriners Hospitals for Children has been sending love to the rescue, regardless of a family's ability to pay.
If you know a child we can help, call or go online now.
The innocence of youth. Is there anything any better? But soon they'll be in high school and facing all the same challenges you faced. How to make friends, how to fit in, how to be cool. We want our children to have everything they'll need to live fulfilling and productive lives. Make sure the kids in your family are among the more than 170,000 participants here in Kansas who take part in high school sports or activities.
And welcome back to Kansas Football Friday, presented by Sports in Kansas. I'm Leon Liebel along with Mike Snow, who's right now filling in for Chet Coupland. Chet will be back a little bit later in the show. As we mentioned, Chet, he's off there in Frontenac tonight accepting an award, Kansas Media of the Year. Well-deserved, as Sports in Kansas does such a terrific job of keeping us up to date on high school sports throughout the great state of Kansas. And while Chet is away, and it's pretty much halftime across the state of Kansas, most of our games, let's check out the Chet Coupland's Kansas Top 10. And Mike, he's got Lawrence High, number 1 overall, and taking on St. Thomas Aquinas, number 2 tonight.
Yeah, the biggest game in the state, and we've been following that. It's 20-14 Lawrence right now at halftime, and you can't argue with that. That really the only thing that I would make question about Chet's top 10, and we can do that because he's not on here, right? Is Mill Valley, and I know the loss to Gardner Edgerton didn't look good, but when you consider what Mill Valley was able to do with that good win at Derby in week 1, who was then the number 1 team in 6A. They blew out DeSoto in week 2, and then they played Bentonville, Arkansas, and they are a 7A power out of Northwest Arkansas, 2,000 students, D1 guys up and down their roster, and it was a 28-all game late in that one. Mill Valley let that one slip away, and I think just back-to-back physical games kind of done them in a little bit, and maybe looking past a Gardner Edgerton team that may be a little bit better than what they thought. And I know back-to-back losses, which I think if you're a Kansas team, you throw out the loss against Bentonville, but here in a few weeks, Leon, in a semifinal matchup, Aquinas and Mill Valley, that is going to be a huge 5A game here the weekend before Thanksgiving.
It certainly is. And again, Lawrence playing St. Thomas Aquinas now. And I want to mention, going back to the Kansas top 10 there, it was Wichita Northwest, number 3, Mill Valley 4, Bishop Miege 5, and Derby 6. Wichita Northwest, by the way, has been putting up some huge numbers offensively. Steve Martin's got that offense going again, and they lead 42-7 at halftime against Wichita Heights tonight. Now, this is the small schools, Class 3A through 1A, and Chet has Andell, the number 1. They're out of 3A, and, of course, Andell, they may be just the untouchable in Class 3A this season, according to Chet.
Yeah, I would agree with that. 91 kids out, what they do with their wrestling program, basketball, their track program. I mean, that is a football factory. Back in 2014, I had a chance to call the 4A Division II state championship game, Columbus against Andale, and it took 40 minutes, Leon, for Andale to announce over 90 players on their roster, and it's just a team that continues to reload, and they get it done not just in football, but that little bedroom community on the northwest side of Wichita, they certainly have got it going on. And, we're talking this runs 15, 20 years plus now. And, they would be the sure-cut favorite. You can't write off Topeka Hayden. Perry Lecompton and them had a heck of a game last year in the semifinals. Look for both of those teams to really battle on the East. But I would say right now, if the state championship game was tomorrow against either Hayden, Lecompton, or Holton, whoever comes out of the East, that I would favor Andale, at least 2-touchdown favorite in that game. And,
again, completing the top 10 there, the Class 3A through 1A. Silver Lake's the highest-ranked 2A team at number 7. And Hoisington, a team we've kept an eye on and watched, they've won 8 straight games this season. They're a team in 2A that might make some noise. Here is 8-man combined divisions. Now, this is combined, Division 1 and 2. And Chet has Canton Galva, 8-man Division 1, the number 1 overall team. We had them on a week ago as they went up against Little River, and that was quite a battle. Canton Galva went on to win that game by a significant score, but it was a lot closer than the final score would indicate, as they often say. St. Francis, number 2. And Hanover, always a powerhouse in 8-man football, ranked 3. And then Madison and Wichita County. Wichita County, of course, that's Leota. A couple weeks ago, we saw them go to Jetmore and take on Hodgman County, a game we thought was going to be competitive. It was over at halftime.
Yeah, that's one thing. That's one thing about those 8-man games. If you get off to a bad start, it's going to be a short night for you for sure.
And we'll check out some of our individual leaders right now. And, of course, in passing, Ben Smith continues to be the number 1 passer in the state, averaging 307 yards a game. As he's followed by Kyler Semrad of Goddard, Charlie Killingsworth, Rock Creek, Ty Black, impressive young man from Shawnee Mission Northwest. Saw him last week. He's headed to play at Air Force, the son of head coach Bo Black there at Shawnee Mission Northwest. Dylan Smith from Larned, Andrew Corey, Lance Hoffsummer, Nick Hogan, Harrison Voff from Cheney. By the way, Cheney lead out in Holcomb 7-6. That game out there in Holcomb. Isaac Stanton from Bazor Linwood, averaging 250 yards a game passing. Our rushing leaders, Tyler Bowden. We've seen him several times from Tonganoxie, transferred from Free State. He's been outstanding, averaging 260.4 yards a game, has 1,302 total yards rushing. Colton McCarty from Shaylin, we talked about them earlier with Connor Nickel. That's a 6-man team. Of course, they would rack up some yards running the football in 6-man football. Andrew Swin from Mauer Hill, Lakin Farmer from Halstead, McLean Weekly, Santa Fe Trail, Isaac Mendez from West Grinnell. That's an 8-man team. Another 8-man is Cooper Winhold from Wilson. And in Class 2A, Jarrett Baxa from Republic County, Aaron Skidmore from South Gray out there in Montezuma, Copeland area, and Alec McGuinn from Hutchinson. That's Class 5A, and the Hutchinson Salthawks have been kind of a surprise as they're off to an undefeated start after 2 straight losing seasons. And their receiving leaders, catching the football, Marcelo Bussi from Junction City, averaging 149.5 yards a game. And, Mike, I think you're about to say something there.
No, I was going to make a comment when you got to Brooks Whaley from Rock Creek. I had a chance to watch them play online back in week 2, which would have been the first game of the season for Rock Creek. And the Killingsworth kid, they lost to Rossville. And those of you familiar, we were talking about Pittsburgh State earlier, and Tucker Horak in the all the yards he put up as the quarterback and a couple of state titles, 3 state titles in his career there for Rossville. His little brother Tori, when those two met off, if you could find that game online and you like really good high school football and offense, 59-58, Rossville beat them. But the Whaley kid at receiver and the Killingsworth kid at quarterback. They are one of those teams that nobody's talking about because we mentioned those three teams on the East, and Holton and Perry LeCompton and Topeka Hayden, but they're a team offensively. If they get a good night and some good weather here in Kansas and playoff football, they are capable of beating anybody the way they could put up yards and points.
All right, once again, it's halftime in most of our games across the state of Kansas. Week number 6 for high school football, and once again, you're watching Kansas Football Friday, presented by Sports in Kansas. We're going to take a halftime break. We'll be back with more right after this.
It's okay to shop around, but make your last stop Lewis Chevrolet of Garden City. We have the largest pre-owned inventory in Western Kansas, and we back them with GM certification. That means you get an upgraded ride and peace of mind with a 172-point inspection, 3 months of OnStar and XM radio, 2 years of no-cost maintenance, and a 6-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty. Plus, at Lewis Chevrolet of Garden City, you never pay retail. Stop by Lewis Chevrolet of Garden City today or click lewischevy.com. Buy local, buy for less, buy Lewis.
So, what is love? Love is being independent. Love is dancing. At Shriners Hospital for Children, love is a new smile.
At Shriners Hospitals for Children, love is caring for a child regardless of the family's ability to pay. Learn how you can send your love to the rescue at lovetotherescue.org.
And welcome back to Kansas Football Friday. I'm Leon Liebel along with Mike Snow, who's sitting in for Chet Coupland right now. Chet will be back in a few minutes as once again he takes a break to accept an award. He's down in Frontenac tonight in Southeast Kansas, and also Mike is in Southeast Kansas where he's located and got his Pitt State shirt on there, I noticed, the Pitt State Gorillas. And we're going to talk more about we talked about the rankings and individual leaders. How about teams that are kind of maybe a surprise and a season that's been hard to predict, but here we go. And starting off with Blue Valley Northwest, and we had Clint Ryder on a few weeks ago, the head coach of Blue Valley Northwest, and they got a big win that week against Blue Valley. They're taking on Blue Valley North tonight, but Blue Valley Northwest in Class 6A has been a bit of a surprise on the east side.
Hard-nosed guy, grew up just down the road from me in Weir City, Kansas, and was the head coach at his Alma Mater in Southeast before heading out to Heston, having a good run out there, and now coaching Class 6A. And there was a couple of weeks ago, Leon, he was awarded the High School Football Coach of the Week from the Kansas City Chiefs organization. And Clint is one of those guys that works tirelessly, and he's certainly a guy to work for, that works hard and you want to root for. He was a heck of a Class 3A player for the Southeast Lancers back in the early teens of the 2000s when his career wrapped up. And, he's a really good kid. And, thing that stands out on this list, and, I know they've been down a little bit after Randy Dreiling left, but anytime you see Hutchinson with their storied program as a surprise team, kind of gives you an idea of what 2020 is kind of summed up, as well as Holcomb, a team that I feel like over the last several years have been a team that has been 4A2 or a Class 3A contender as well. So that certainly stands out.
And we got Thomas More Prep also listed there in Class 2A, Inman and Oakley in Class 1A. And from 8-man football, Sedan South Gray, some of our surprise teams here in 2020. And Colony Crest and Wilson in 8-man 2. And Colony Crest, we talked about them a little bit last week. They're the team, and I don't know if you saw this, Mike, but Chet had a video of it. They scored a touchdown with the quarterback threw the ball over his head, no-look pass, and that thing, as the kids say, went viral. It was tremendous to watch.
Yep, and it's sometimes teams, especially at small school level, has a hard time completing a pass when you're looking at the receiver, let alone when you got your back and you're flipping it over your shoulder. Yeah, that was on SportsCenter. That went everywhere across the country. That was over 2 million views on Chet's platform alone.
That was great. And as I mentioned last week, watching it over and over, I came to realize it's not a bad call because the receiver knows he was going to do it. It really fooled the defense. So it looked crazy, but it wasn't bad. Now, you're a Southeast Kansas guy, and I've been told, and I understand Southeast Kansas is famous. Well, I know this is famous for its fried chicken. And it's got, I know they got Chicken Annie's, Chicken Mary's in Pittsburgh. I've heard of them for since I was a little kid. But we're going to have the rankings, or maybe not rankings, but we're going to talk about who's got the best fried chicken in Southeast Kansas. Here's what we've got listed from Chet Copeland. Talk about this, Mike.
Well, Bardo's Idle Hour. I'm right across the street. We were checking in on the Frontenac game, and you could see my house on that broadcast. So I'm right across the street from the Frontenac High School football field, and I'm about 2 blocks down the road from Bardo's Idle Hour. So politically, I'm going to go with Bardo's is my favorite just because it's here in my hometown and just down the street. But it's kind of like pizza. You like pizza from different places. You may have a favorite restaurant or a favorite type of pizza at your favorite restaurant, but if you're a Pizza Hut guy and you say, let's go to Domino's, I'm sure there's something there. And that's kind of the way I view our Southeast Kansas chicken. Now, there are people that are loyal to their brand. Being a big guy that likes to eat like an offensive lineman, Leon, I'm up for if you come to Pittsburgh and you say, Mike, I want to try Chicken Annie's, I'll say we'll load up in the car and go. But Bardo's is definitely my favorite. Chicken Mary's would be my second favorite. And then after that, I've got to bring in Gebhardt's because on Monday nights, Leon, they have chicken and noodles that is some of the best chicken and noodles that you've ever will have. And that is their special on Monday nights. I have had all of these. They are all very good. But if I had my choice, it would be Bardo's number 1 and Chicken Mary's number 2.
Now, Chicken Mary's and Chicken Annie's I've heard about for so long now. I didn't realize there's this many Chicken Annie, different versions. We got Chicken Annie's in Girard, and then we got Pickler's Chicken Annie's. And are they the same or different? What's going on there?
It's a little bit different. Chicken Annie's and Chicken Mary's, I don't know if you remember on the Travel Network about 10 years ago, they had a food wars and a battle between Chicken Annie's and Chicken Mary's. And it's, with the mining and everything that goes back into the history of our great part of the state here in Southeast Kansas, where those are located, you talk about real estate and location, and you're going to put a restaurant. For the success that those 2 restaurants, along with Gebhardt's, who's out there in that same neck of the woods as them, it's off the beaten path. You really got to know where you're going to find them. And originally family, and then they split up into 2 different groups. And Chicken Annie's had some franchises. The Girard became a franchise with some of the recipes and whatnot. And Pickler's is on the south end of town, so those folks in Cherokee County that don't want to drive the extra 20 minutes to get chicken to go, you can just get it right there. And for those of you that are familiar, right at the 469 Highway Junction, right next to the Kansas Crossing Casino, is where the Pickler's Chicken Annie's is located.
There you go. All you want to know about fried chicken in Southeast Kansas. And we'd be remiss to not mention that the big story about fried chicken restaurants this week. The Brookville Hotel, now located in Abilene, just off I-70, is closing. They were kind of a victim of the COVID situation, and a terrific place to eat fried chicken. It was open at 125 years, goes back to Brookville, Kansas, where it was at the original Brookville Hotel, and then they moved. But there you go. We got our fried chicken report. I think we'll get back to football here pretty soon as we're going to get back to action as halftime is over most of the way across Kansas as you're watching Kansas Football Friday presented by Sports in Kansas and every chicken restaurant in between. We're back with more right after this.
I've been with Lewis Automotive since 2007. I've worked in the service department, finance, and sales,
one of our
so I've
leading
experienced
rushers
all
will have a
aspects
great
of the dealership. I enjoy the car business because I get to see people from different walks of life every day. I grew up in a small Kansas town, so I take pride in getting to know my customers. I think that's what sets Lewis apart. We treat our customers like family. I'm Mike Shook, General Manager of Lewis Chevy Cadillac at Garden City, and I'd like to help you join the Lewis family.
My daughter was diagnosed with scoliosis.
Connor's right leg was shorter than the left.
Her issues were so rare.
I wanted a doctor who's experienced at treating my child's exact condition.
That's why we went to Shriners Hospitals for Children.
These doctors develop the most advanced procedures.
They do so much research.
With some of the most innovative doctors in the world.
And they put all their best thinking, all their love into healing my child.
And they did it, regardless of our ability to pay.
My daughter is who she is today because of Shriners Hospitals for Children.
And once again, welcome back to Kansas Football Friday. I'm Leon Liebel along with Mike Snow. Mike sitting in for Chet Copeland for the next few minutes or so as Chet is off accepting an award down in Frontenac, and Mike broadcasting from that area as well. And Mike, as we mentioned earlier, you're in quarantine, but doing well. And it's good to see you and good to have you doing something. I'm sure you were kind of cooped up there for a while, or have been cooped up.
Yeah, Tuesday at midnight I will be released, and I've been confined here to my man cave. Thank goodness for Major League Baseball playoffs, NFL games, and looking forward to a really exciting college football Saturday tomorrow. But had this been during the shutdown and the pandemic, Leon, with no sports, this would be much more difficult. But, being asymptomatic with very few issues, consider myself much luckier than other folks that are battling through this right now.
And, Mike, we got some kind of breaking news on the high school scene tonight in high school football. Topeka Highland Park is leading Topeka West 38-18. Now, if Highland Park, the Scotties, can hold on to this win, it would snap a 54-game losing streak. So that's a game we'll certainly be keeping an eye on through the evening.
When I was in high school in the early 90s, Erie High School, just down the road up in Neosho County, they were on a 54-game losing streak, I believe, something like that. And they won the final game of the regular season, and they buried a stuffed monkey at midfield of Erie High School after they broke their long losing streak. So, and in 2020, with how do we know who's here for Topeka West as far as quarantine? I mean, you could see a lot of streaks and a lot of things like this happen. More upsets are prone to happen with quarantine and some of the issues these high school teams have been battling this year.
Another losing streak story for you, Mike. When I was a kid, back at Southwest Kansas at Ensign High School, they no longer have a high school, but they had the longest losing streak in the nation at one time. And CBS NFL Today came out and did a story. Brent Musburger, Irv Cross, Phyllis George, they came out and did a story on them. That was a big deal out there in Southwest Kansas. And they finally broke that losing streak, and then the school closed. But that was a big deal at the time. As we're back to action in let's see here. We got Girard taking on Burlington. Burlington up 44-7 in this game. Oh, another thing I want to mention as we were talking about our leading rushers for the season, one of the guys on that list was Lakin Farmer from Halstead. Lakin tonight has 16 carries, 290 yards, and 3 touchdowns in the first half. Halstead leading Heston 26-21. Second half has gotten underway there. So.
That's pretty impressive. You'd think with that type of numbers, the game would be a little bit more than a 5-point game at halftime.
Heston, again, they got a pretty good program. We mentioned Clint Ryder, the former head coach there at Heston, but I think he left it in pretty good hands. They always seem to have pretty good talent. And this is 8-man football. South Barber leading Otis Bison 38-12. That game at South Barber. Kiowa down on the Oklahoma state line there. Just west of Medicine Lodge, I believe. Yes. As there's your 4 games. And we go back to our feature game, Dodge City at Hayes tonight. And Hayes High leading 17-0. They led 17-0 at halftime. Dodge City's really had difficulty getting something going on offense, and certainly an example of that right there. That play going nowhere for quarterback Alden Nedler, number 9 for the Dodge City Red Demons. No room to run there.
You really got to credit the effort, though, of the Red Demons just to be hanging around in this game. And We knew coming in with the defense, especially the front four that Hayes puts out on the field, they were going to have a hard time moving the football. But you got to credit Dodge City's defense. And keep in mind, 2 of those 17 points was on a punt that they just took out of the back of the end zone and took a safety. So you got to kind of take your hat off a bit to a team a little overmatched at times, especially the defensive side of things for Dodge City. And now you see Lawrence on the move on the Aquinas' side of the ball in a game that was, when we came on the air, when I was filling in for Chet, was 20-0, and it was all Lawrence. And now Aquinas is hanging around in this one as well.
And Lawrence High on top 20-14, 2 of the top teams in the state of Kansas. We saw Chet's rankings. He's got Lawrence ranked number 1 overall, St. Thomas Aquinas ranked number 2 overall. And again, they're in different classes. So Lawrence number 1 in 6A, Aquinas number 1 in 5A. And now Lawrence of the pass completion and the touchdown. Little play action and a wide open receiver, and the Lawrence Lions are on the board here in the second half to go up 26-14. The extra point coming up.
Devin Neal picking up the last guy. Gave Dooley time to step into that throw. And again, once you get behind somebody, Jackson Dooley's got a good enough arm to get it out there to you.
2-point conversion attempt coming up to make up for the missed PAT back in the first quarter.
And again, you're watching UClick TV Studios tonight in Overland Park as St. Thomas Aquinas at home against Lawrence. And Lawrence Lions just completed that long pass. Beautiful play. They're going to go for 2, as you heard there. They missed an extra point earlier in this game, so they'll go for 2 to try to make up for that, leading 26-14. Pass attempt incomplete. A little too hot there on the left side, and that's the score is going to stay 26-14. Lawrence on top of St. Thomas Aquinas, and once again, Mike, don't count out the Saints. We got to keep an eye on that game throughout the night.
Absolutely, and Pittsburgh High is on the move. They've got it in the red zone, down 14-7 to Lansing, a game we talked about. I'm following that here locally as well, and earlier, right at the beginning of the start of the second half, we flashed up Burlington, and Girard jumped out in the opening drive 7-0, and now it's 44-7 Burlington. And John Petrie has really built a good program, and I'm sure covering high school football as many years as you had, Leon, you've been around the single wing offense. It's kind of a rarity, especially at the Class 3A and above level, and they have some very good offensive linemen, some very good running backs in Burlington, and I had a chance to call their game last week against Frontenac. Frontenac went up there and won 28-12. It was a game that Frontenac scored with 2 minutes to go. When it was 14-12, they scored and then got a stop and put a score on late. But it's hard to find the football, and that is a team on that east side. When you get into those cold weather games, if you're a passing team and you struggle with wind and weather and you match up with Burlington, they are certainly capable of beating anybody. As that ball should have been picked there with Hayes.
Looked like the quarterback there, Nedler for Dodge City, got hit just as he threw that ball and it went straight up in the air. And Hayes High had a terrific chance for an interception, could not come up with it. You mentioned the single wing. You mentioned that, I've been covering football a long time. I actually did a story way back on the single wing when it was kind of popular for a while. Wichita Southeast, their head coach Dan Johnson was running it. And, of course, Conway Springs had a ton of success over the years. Mark Bliss brought that into Conway Springs. And when I did that story, I discovered there's actually was a national group of single wing coaches. They had like a convention they would go to and talk about it and share ideas. It was pretty amazing, and it was a very effective offense. Still is if teams have that talent, and it's hard to find that football.
Yes, it is.
All right, back St. Thomas Aquinas. The Saints trying to get back on the board and answer here after giving up that Lawrence touchdown. 26-14, Lawrence on top of St. Thomas Aquinas, 2 of the top teams in the state of Kansas. This game at Aquinas tonight in Overland Park. Talked about Lawrence earlier in the show before this game started. As I mentioned in the chat, one of the great high school traditions in the state of Kansas, maybe one of the best. They've won 10 state championships in the playoff format. Their last was in 1995, though. But overall, they count 27 state football titles. Now, going back before 1969, the state champions, if you will, were kind of a mythical, like college football. They voted, but Lawrence High was always a dominant team going way, way back. And They always one of the great traditional powers. But again, they have not won a state championship since. I don't think they've played for a state title since they divided up into 2 high schools in the city of Lawrence. Of course, Free State being the other high school now. As we have another 8-man game, and is this right? Hoxie leads Hill City 2-0. Wow.
Yeah, I didn't know if we had a live look into an MLB playoff game for an 8-man game under 5 minutes to go and no touchdowns. That's impressive.
Our producer director Mike Nelson just said in my ear, unless it's a 102 and they just don't have room on the scoreboard. But I don't think that game would be called by now. This is in the third quarter, so it is 2-0, a safety for Hoxie, and man. We've talked about them a little bit throughout the year. So you have the big kid on the offensive or the defensive end and tight end, Harlan Oboya. He's listed at 6'11", maybe 7 foot, and big-time schools are looking at him. And here's a pass completion and the touchdown.
That's a Ballman, and he put it in for 6. A 15-yard touchdown pass from Ashton Dow to Aiden Ballman for the first touchdown of the night.
Wow.
Well, there you go.
That's why he's the producer of the year here in Kansas, Mr. Mike Nelson.
Perfect timing. Just get right in and get the first touchdown of the game. Yeah, it's Hoxie and Hill City. And the Hill City Ringnecks. He's talking about great mascots in Kansas, and I know Chet Copeland always talks about that's one of his favorites.
Yep.
So they're going to go for 2 here. Yes. Or they? Yeah, it's 6-0 Hoxie as they got that touchdown, and now they'll go for 2 and try to make it a 10-0 game. They already got a safety and a touchdown. Let's listen in.
High formation here for the Indians. Dow under center. Will take the snap, fakes the handoff, little floater here to the near side, and it is caught! What a great catch by Caden White. An outstanding catch by White and a very good touch.
There you go. Caden White with the catch on the 2-point conversion, and just like that, Hoxie now leads 10-0. Again, that game was just 2-0. 2-0, an 8-man football game in the third quarter. We've seen some low-scoring games this year in 8-man football. Don't know if that's not sure what's going on there, but they lead 10-0 over Hill City in the third quarter. That game at Hoxie.
And Lawrence defense got a stop, and they're on the move again near midfield, already leading by 2 scores against Aquinas.
And back to Hayes, where Hayes has the ball against Dodge City, leading 17-0. Here's Lawrence on an incomplete pass. That ball sailing a little high. And like Hayes may have an injured player here.
And I tell you, you got to take your hat off because Dodge City, we've talked about this, their defense hasn't been as advertised as Hayes coming into this matchup, and they've made some plays. They've gotten some stops and certainly given their offense a chance. And, you know, when it's down 17-0 at halftime, they've had their opportunities they could have laid down, Leon, and they continue. They've got them in a second long situation here.
And here's Hayes at the quarterback keeper and fighting his way for a couple yards on the play near midfield. And again, Hayes, they got off an early lead, scored at the very beginning of this game to take an 8-0 lead. By the way, in the games we've watched Hayes play this year, every time their first touchdown, they go for 2. And then they settle in after that for extra points, kicked extra points. But they always go for 2 after their first. It's kind of what Chip Kelly did at the University of Oregon when he was there. He would always go for 2 on his first touchdown, kind of set the pace early that they were going to score some points.
Yep.
Kind of gets in the other team's head a little bit, I think.
Now procedure in a big third and make it, I believe, a 3rd and 13 here for Dodge City's defense. Another opportunity to get off the field, and this is one of those games they have, you know, such struggles on offense at this point in time. They're probably not going to win, but for a team that's 2-3, if you can come out of here with some positive momentum, get them ready for the final couple of weeks of the regular season, and give them some momentum heading into the postseason.
And Hayes trying to pass the ball. They're going to throw it and incomplete. And that was a bit of a dangerous play. But Dodge City's defense has been playing pretty well tonight. Getting down 17-0, but could be much worse. Of course, 2 of those points, as Mike pointed out, was a safety that they volunteered on. They were punting deep. I'm not sure that's the right way to put it, but they were punting deep in their own end zone and decided to not risk it and just had the punter run out of the end zone and take the 2 points.
They're going to go for it here.
Yeah, they're at their own 40. And no, there's the that ball was nearly blocked. It may have been, as it's a short kick out of bounds here on the near sideline, way out of bounds. Sounded like somebody might have got a hand on it. And Dodge City, did, what do we got here?
It's going to be rough. It's roughing the punter.
Oh, my.
That's going to be a huge penalty.
As we see it down in your bottom right, roughing the punter. First down for Hayes High, so a big penalty against Dodge City. And a big opportunity there to take over.
And Aquinas got a stop after it was 2nd and short near midfield, so their defense stepped up and see what they can do.
And we're back to Hoxie, where the Hoxie Indians lead Hill City now 10-0 after scoring just moments ago and then converting a 2-point conversion. They also have a safety in this game. Bottom right, again, Dodge City and Hayes. And lower left, that's the big one. 2 top teams in the state, St. Thomas Aquinas against Lawrence. Lawrence jumped out to a 20-0 lead. Aquinas came back with 2 unanswered touchdowns, and it was 20-14 at half. But then Lawrence with a big pass play here in the third quarter. 2-point conversion failed. It's now 26-14. And Aquinas now trying to get some momentum back. Once again, Randy Dryling's Saints, they never say die. We saw this last week against Shawnee Mission Northwest, Mike. They were down 28-14 going into the fourth quarter, and they came back to take a 35-28 lead. And then Northwest came back and actually made it 35-24 and went for 2 with just seconds left. Did not get it, and that's the final score in that game as they won by 1, but never count this team out.
No, you can't. In the offense they run, you're getting mid-third quarter now. They need to start putting some points on the board because their offense lack of ability to throw the football. They need is you're going to get a face mask tacked on to the end of that play there. But they're going to need to get some points here off of this drive because you can't count on having the ball more than 1.5 to 2 possessions per quarter here in high school football, particularly when you're a 4 yards and a cloud of dust type team the way Randy Dryling's Flexbone runs.
And by the way, another score kind of interest, Mays and Mays South, the big crosstown rival there, just northwest of Wichita in Sedgwick County. And Mays South leading Mays 21-10. That game midway through the third quarter. Mays South pretty impressive to start the season. They lost, though, a couple games due to the pandemic and kind of slowed them down a bit, I think. But they were off to a big start as this season began, scoring a lot of points, but leading their crosstown rival Mays 21-10. The Mays South Mavericks. As once again, you're watching Kansas Football Friday, so are we. Presented by Sports in Kansas as we check in on live action all across the state of Kansas, and that includes here now back to Johnson County as Mill Valley now leading Olathe West big 48-14. Really no surprise here. Mill Valley, one of the powerhouses in the state of Kansas. Olathe West just in its third year as a school playing football. One of the brand new schools in Olathe. I'm always amazed, Mike, how quickly Olathe has grown over the years. Of course, it's been 40 years now, but I'm old enough to remember when they just had that one high school, Olathe High, and then that became Olathe North, and then Olathe South, and now they got Olathe East, Olathe West, Olathe Northwest, and that area has just exploded in growth over the years.
Yep. Yeah, it makes me think of Gene Weir and the Olathe North teams with all the state championships they won back in the day, and they were certainly fun to watch, and they had it going. And it seems like they open up a new school, and they're 6A. It's just pretty crazy the way that area has exploded.
Of course, one of the great high school football players, I think, in the state of Kansas ever was Darren Sproles, who played for Olathe North. And Went on to K-State, of course, and a tremendous NFL career as Hayes High just scored again to go up 23-0 on Dodge City. They'll try the extra point here. As it looks like that Dodge City defense might be getting a little worn out now. They had to stay on the field for a few extra downs there after the roughing the kicker or roughing the punter. And the extra point for Hayes is up and no good. And so the score will remain Hayes High 23, Dodge City nothing. And back to Hoxie, 8-man football. This is Hoxie at home against Hill City. We saw one touchdown. We're going to see another. How about our timing with the Hoxie Indians tonight? Just check it in. And that was a replay. But still, here it is, the 2-point conversion. And still, our timing's pretty good, you got to admit. But it's 16-0 now. You know, just moments ago, it was a 2-0 game. We're talking about how low scoring it was. And Hoxie now has scored back-to-back touchdowns, failed on that 2-point conversion, but they lead 16-0.
Well, for the record, I can fill in for Chet Copeland, but when our producer Mike Nelson wins an award, you guys are going to have to go solo, or he's going to have to accept that award when we're not on the air, because I cannot fill in for him for sure.
No, don't say that. Is this we're back to Pittsburgh, the Dragons at home against Lansing.
Yeah, the Dragons have had it in the red zone a couple of times. One in the second quarter, didn't get it in, and had a good drive to start the second half and couldn't get it in, and they are on the move here with Lansing. And again, this is a team that a lot of question marks. They've had some injuries. They've battled COVID. Have the Dragons went to Cape and Mount Carmel, lost to Weston Shart's team 49-0 last week. And you really got to credit the guts that they're showing here to hang around against a very good Lansing team and have their opportunities once again to tie it up.
Once again, that's Pittsburgh against Lansing as we split back up into our 4 games. Bottom right, Hayes, Dodge City. Bottom left, St. Thomas Aquinas in Lawrence. And our upper right, that's an 8-man battle. Otis Bison at South Barber. South Barber had just scored, I believe, and just – no, that's Hoxie. I'm sorry, that's Hoxie Hill City. Hoxie just kicking off, and Hoxie just scored as we just saw. Trying to keep up all the action here.
And Aquinas just punched it in.
Let's go back. Let's check in on this one.
Extra point attempt is up, and it is good. 26-21 is our score. What a game we have tonight with 1:04 remaining here in the third quarter. You're watching high school football on UClick TV. Stay with us.
Yeah, UClick TV, we want to thank them for allowing us to check in, and that is a game we've got to keep an eye on throughout the night because it looks like it's going to shape up as a fantastic ending. Again, the 2 top teams, Lawrence, number 1 in 6A, St. Thomas Aquinas, number 1 in 5A, and there they are facing off in a good one as Aquinas comes back. It's now 26-21, Lawrence on top. Here we have Hoxie leading Hill City 16-0. The less than a minute to go in the third quarter. The Ringnecks with the football.
And Leon, a touchdown. Pittsburgh High just got a 33-yard touchdown pass from Cooper Hayden. I could not see who made the reception in the far corner there. And the Dragons are an extra point away from tying it up against Lansing on one heck of a play.
Well, that's a game you guys had said keep an eye on, and it is shaping up to be a great one in Pittsburgh and Lansing. Purple Dragons at home tonight. And back to Aquinas as we're winding down the third quarter here. Less than a minute to go. Lawrence leading by 5, 26-21. Kind of interesting to see maybe if these missed extra point attempts might catch up with the Lions. They missed an extra kick, and then they went for 2 on their last touchdown. Did not get that. Here's an incomplete pass. Dodge City trying to get something going. Don't have any stats on this game, but I'd be interested to see what Dodge City's total offense is because we have not seen them cross the 50-yard line at all when we checked in on this game as they are being shut out 23-0 up in Hayes. Once again, Lawrence Lions, good field position here. 26-21 over Aquinas. Third quarter action. Spread those receivers out to the 3 to the far side. And they're going to run it up the middle. There's some daylight. Let's check in with that one.
He's across midfield. Neil Magic.
Hey, Devin Neal there is playing man's game. I mean, that's just straight up man's game. Now, you watch inside, you got 5-1-4 up front. They let the defensive end go. They didn't even bother blocking him. They run 4 guys on 3 guys, gives Devin Neal really 2 holes to run up into. And then once he gets to the second level, the safety's got 2 guys on him, and he runs through that.
5 seconds to go in the quarter. 1st and 10 from the 38. Play action. Dooley steps up. 1-on-1. Going to the corner.
He caught it. That's a touchdown.
He brought it in.
Wow.
Touchdown, Lions. How
Holy
about
cow,
that?
Trey Jackson was like, no. I made a mistake on the defensive side. I'm not going to let it happen now.
Are you kidding me?
What a catch by Trey Jackson.
Holy moly. Mike, that was incredible to see that play. Dooley with the pass, the great arm, but Trey Jackson, and great coverage from the Aquinas defense there. He just dropped it in, dropped a dime, and Trey Jackson with a terrific over-the-shoulder catch in the end zone for the Lawrence touchdown with time running out here in the third quarter. As the extra point attempt, looks like a bad snap, and they're going to have to fall on it. Another missed extra point opportunity for Lawrence as they now lead by 11, 32-21. How about that? That's good stuff right there.
Yeah, and those extra points and some of the struggles Coach Rampy's had with those, we hate to see in a big game like that to be the difference. But, you know, if Aquinas can put something together and connect on their extra points and get a stop, that could be the difference in the game. And so many times, not only at the high school level, at every level, you see that that's the difference. And I'm sure if that's a game that Lawrence lets slips away because of extra points, Coach Rampy will be spending some extra time on that in practice next week.
Once again, they missed 2 kicks and a 2-point conversion they had a problem with, so that's 4 points they leave on the field. That extra point attempt, that last one, looked like it was just a bad snap, and they could not get the ball down. And once again, 32-21 Lawrence on top as we head back to Hayes. The Hayes High Indians in control here against Dodge City, leading 23-0. And this has been, talk about Dodge City's offensive struggles, got to give it up to the Hayes High defense in this game as they pitched the shutout and really shut down the Red Demon offense. Hoxie leading Hill City 16-0 out in Hoxie. Hill City in the white uniforms. They're the visiting team tonight against the Hoxie Indians. Some other scores. Check in on here real quick. I saw Andover Central and Salina Central. Hoisington leading Ellsworth at the end of the third quarter 30-0. Hoisington looking for its 9th straight win going back to last season. Hoisington, a team that, or 9th straight regular season victory. But that's a team we've kind of kept an eye on, and we'll continue to do that throughout the season. They were our feature game first week on the debut show of Kansas Football Friday, again presented by Sports in Kansas. Once again, I'm Leon Liebel, your host, with Mike Snow, sitting in for Chet Copeland, who's taken some time off this evening to accept an award, and he will be back with us as he's down in Frontenac at his hometown. Lewisburg stepping out of the state, taking on Smithville, Missouri. Smithville leading 28-0. And I would assume this is another one of those games that had to be scheduled, maybe, at the last second because of the pandemic situation.
You know, we talk about the effort and everybody goes through to get the games in, but how difficult is it for the players and the coaching staff when you prepare Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday for a team, and then they let you know Wednesday afternoon that you're no longer going to be playing due to the pandemic, and now you've got to pick up, and I know it's the same for both teams, but still very difficult to show up one day of practice and go prepare for an unfamiliar opponent.
By the way, I was mentioning Andover Central, Salina Central, and Andover Central now leading 27-7. Have a minute and a half to go in the third quarter of play. And a big 8-man matchup. We have we talked about Hanover, a perennial powerhouse there in our rankings. They are leading Clifton Clyde 28-12. Now Hanover is a 8-man Division II. They're ranked number 2 by K-Preps. Number 4, Clifton Clyde in 8-man Division I. So that's 28-12. Hanover on top that game in the third quarter. As we're back to St. Thomas Aquinas, Lawrence leading 32-21, but Aquinas has always had an answer in this game, and see if they can continue to fight back as the fourth quarter is underway in Overland Park. Let's check in and listen in on this drive that the Aquinas Saints are on their own 19-yard line or 18-yard line.
He's worried about his offense.
He's worried about his offense. I've been there. I've been worried about an offense before.
There's a run stuffed up after about a yard or two by Carroll on the carry. Third down coming up.
And see now, because of the penalty and the loss on first down, which, I mean, Tank tried to bail him out. I mean, he absolutely did a great effort trying to bail him out of that. That should have been a 5 or 6 yard loss. But now you're looking at third and about 9.
From the 24.
They're not used to this part of their offense. They're not used to running to trying to get 9 yards on a play now. They're going to try to get the Tank to the wide side.
Tank going for the corner.
And Lawrence High snipped it out the whole way. It was a great job.
Well, something Mike Snow just made a point of moments ago.
This is with Jules Guard.
Aquinas, a team that likes to run the football, maybe not built for quick comebacks against this Lawrence High team. But what a game we've got. Lawrence High leading 26-21. And look who is back, our award-winning journalist, Chet Copeland. Chet, how'd it go? How'd it go for you?
It went good. I expected to be back a little bit sooner, but you know when you're in small-town America and you don't see a lot of people that you grew up with and around, everybody wanted to talk, but they didn't realize that I got to be on Kansas Football Friday. So glad to have Mike Snow on. And, of course, I listened to you guys on the way there and all that. And it was fun to be there and seemed like a pretty good game going on and nice to be honored and back, of course, in my hometown. Not wherever I played. I'm so old school, though. We had a field, a Duff Spigarelli field. Mike can speak on that, how wild and crazy it was. No track, fans on top of you right next to old school. And about 2004, 2005, they moved high school football outside of town, not by the school. So the stadium and all that, the atmosphere's changed a little bit. Not the same as back in the day with the fans on top of you, but great to be back in Frontenac, Kansas with those Friday night lights. And you got a sense of things being normal. Yeah, everybody was in a mask out there and everything going on, but just being at an actual football game was a little bit different feel because I've not been at a football game since the Shrine Bowl and I guess the K-State game last week because we're on this broadcast every week, so we can't really be at games while we're on Kansas Football Friday. So it's nice to get a little taste of a couple minutes football.
Yeah, it's great to have Mike Snow here too, talking fried chicken and football. So we went through the whole situation down there. But again, the award you received tonight, Kansas Media of the Year. Explain that again.
It was for the Wrestling Coaches Association, so I actually have it here, if you can see it.
Good job.
Oh, wrong way here. And it was for last year, so got to thank our team for doing that. You know, Connor Nickel, a big part of a lot of the stuff we do in writing those reports, and of course, shout out to Coach Albright, as well as Keith Aiken and all those other guys. You know, wrestling is a sport that's gaining traction. You know, and when I was in high school, Frontenac did not have wrestling. Southeast Kansas, it wasn't very big outside of where Mike went to high school. Columbus, that's all everybody talked about was their wrestling team, but nobody else really had a team. So the sport has grown across the state, and of course those Northwest Kansas schools and things like that. It is big time thing out there, as big as football. So it's nice to be honored for maybe an award that I didn't really see coming because a lot of our coverage is oftentimes football. So it's nice to be honored there back in Frontenac tonight for the Media of the Year.
Well, back to football action with Chet back in the studio with us as we check in on a new one. We got Colby and Russell, and Colby leading this game 48-0. Our first look in on this game tonight, 48-0. Colby leading Russell.
Yeah, Colby's had a really solid program under Reese McKinney here in recent memory. They've had some athletes, of course. Aaron Kurth graduating last year had some Division I looks, and Calvin Stapp and company last year. Then the year before, Jordan Shippers, he played as a true freshman last year at Western Illinois, and he's transferred, and now he's at the Kansas State program, so maybe a guy that we can see play for them. But I was actually just on that track a few weeks ago getting my steps in, as I stayed the night in Colby the night before I went to, of course, Bird City and St. Francis way out there before the Mountain Time Zone begins. So definitely favored in this matchup, Colby, but there's some tough teams in that GWAC this year for sure.
And once again, we break it back out. Our 4 games we're checking out right now across the state. And it looks like Hoxie up there in your upper right just scored again. And Chet, this game was 2-0 Hoxie in the third quarter. We were really surprised. We check in. They score a touchdown. Now they've scored again. They go up 24-0. And we've talked about this team. And, of course, the big man, Harlan Aboya. Did I get that right?
Yeah, Harlan Aboya, and you know, depending on what recruiting service that you look at, he's 6'10 and a half, 6'11 and a half, 7 foot. And I talked to Harlan quite a bit and developed a relationship with exchanging messages back and forth. And you know, I won't take credit for putting him on the recruiting radar because all I had to do was, you know, put out a post. You're 6'11", you're 6'11", and of course he needs to get stronger in the weight room. We've talked about that. He knows that, but also an all-state pick in 2A basketball. A little bit maybe oversized maybe for some of the positions that you see, but you know, Willie Cauley-Stein was a really good high school football player too that maybe had some looks, an all-state receiver for Olathe Northwest before he transferred from Spearville. But Harlan has 12 FBS offers at this point. And what a good game we got going here. And I spoke of this earlier, and I've been away from the computer screens, but you know, of course, Aquinas still hanging in there.
They are. It is 32-21. Lawrence on top of Aquinas. Lawrence has been in the lead since the very beginning of this football game, but Aquinas has always had an answer. Again, it was 20-0 to start the game. Aquinas came back with 2 unanswered touchdowns to make it a 20-14 lead at halftime. Lawrence made it 26-14, and then Aquinas came right back, make it 26-21. Lawrence with a terrific touchdown pass play. Trey Jackson, unbelievable catch in the end zone, made it 32-21. Now, Lawrence has failed to convert on its extra points, 3 consecutive touchdowns, so might that catch up to them? We'll see here as they are threatening, though, to – actually, Aquinas has the ball deep in their own territory. Okay, but Aquinas needs to get something going again. Yeah, I'm Leon Liebel along with Chet Copeland, and we had Mike Snow. Mike's gone now? Is that right? Oh, okay. Hey, Mike. I want to make sure we still got you in on the broadcast here. Oh, okay. Well, Mike Snow did a terrific job filling in for Chet Copeland as Chet was away for a while here tonight, taking a break there down there in Frontenac to accept his award at the game. And hometown hero, Chet Copeland. As we just got a long pass play. Let's listen in on this one.
He's across midfield to the 30, to the 20. Makes one man miss, 10, and down at the 7-yard line. A huge gain.
Corbin Oberzan with a hustle play saved a touchdown there. First off, the play should have been an interception. They should have had it picked off. The ball was thrown a little bit short. Should have been an interception. Then the missed tackle, and you've got a heck of a play by the wide receiver there. Let's give him credit. That young man, that's Cam Meyer.
First and goal at the 7 after the big reception from Cam Meyer. And they hand it off up the gut a few yards on the first and goal run.
Yeah, he's down to the 2-yard line here. Not just Cam Meyer, it's actually Cameron.
7:40 to go. Ball at the 2. Tank takes the carry. And he's in there. Touchdown, Aquinas.
There you go, just like that. Aquinas coming back to score again on that long pass completion. Kind of a wacky play, but they got down all the way into the around the 5-yard line. Young takes it in for the TD, and that makes it 32-27. They go for 2 here, Chet? Make it a 3-point game?
I think you could. I mean, this is a team that's run dominant, and you have one of the best backs in the state, and it looks like they are going to, because certainly a lot of these schools have pretty good kickers in the EKL and the Sunflower League, so it's not like we're playing 2A, 3A football here and put you within, of course, a reach here where a field goal could make a difference later in this game.
And we got a timeout on the field. It looks like they're going to talk it over. Randy Dryling, the head coach of St. Thomas Aquinas. So we'll get back to that on that 2-point conversion, if they indeed do that. And a new game to check in on. This is in Andover. It's Valley Center at Andover. Andover Trojans at home tonight. Andover Stadium, as both Andover Central and Andover share that, I believe. They still do.
And a really nice win last week for the Andover High School Trojans, beating Hutchinson, giving them their first loss of the year. Have some really good players. Ashton Noe, of course, on that defensive side of the football, a linebacker, a 3-year starter. And Andover's been an up-and-down program over the years, but some pretty good players coming out of there year in and year out. Of course, Valley Center does have some offensive weapons this year as well. And, some of these teams sometimes go a little bit under the radar, still some good players because, of course, you have the high-level Derbies or the Bishop Carrolls of the world, and very hard to get over that hump for some of those teams to make those deep runs. And some years you'll see it when they're in 4A, whether that's Andover Central or whatnot, but a lot of those programs back and forth 4A, 5A type of schools.
And Dodge City finally getting deep in the Hayes. Hayes now, Dodge City with the football. And the direct snap on the play is Red Demons trying to get something going on offense here in the fourth quarter. They've been shut out tonight up in Hayes, 23-0 in that WAC battle, Western Athletic Conference. Chad, while you're away, a game we were kind of keeping an eye on if we can find another score. This was at halftime, but Topeka Highland Park was leading Topeka West 38-18 at half. And the Scots trying to snap a 54-game losing streak. That dates back 6 years.
Wow.
And trying to find an update on that. Again, that was halftime, but that would be an historic victory. Well, I think now it's the halftime score is the latest I have. We'll check in on that a little bit later. But once again, Dodge City at Hayes, the Red Demons trying to get on the board for the first time tonight. And this is the deepest they've been in Hayes territory tonight. Ball marked around I think that's a 17-yard line. Alden Nedler, the quarterback, and they're going to call a timeout. Timeout on the field there.
And that was kind of my biggest concern, Leon, with this Hayes team. And it's kind of funny that I said that in the opening. I'm saying that now. And then we also had that confirmed from Connor Nickel. Is this Hayes High Indian team explosive enough offensively to hang around in the Class 5A playoffs? I think that is the question a lot of people have. There's no question, Leon, that they are very good defensively. But when you are playing Bishop Carroll, when you are playing Wichita Northwest or Mays South or Capon, it's going to be very hard, I feel like, to hold them scoreless. So do they have that offensive firepower, those weapons to go to offensively, to be one of those teams we're talking about in the 5A playoffs this year? We shall see.
And once again, we are watching Kansas Football Friday. I'm Leon Liebel. Chet Copeland back with us. Chet from Sports in Kansas. And you went on another tour, of course, of the state. You stayed closer to home, or at least your old home, down in southeast Kansas for your tour of talking to kids about the social media and what not to do and what to do.
Yeah, I was it's called the Power of Social Media Tour, Think Before You Post, and really it doesn't have a lot to do with sports. It's about online reputation, viral posting, cyberbullying, things like that, because we know this day and age, as something goes viral, it can ruin you one post, whether it's that job or scholarship or your reputation, whatever it happens to be. There's a lot of that going on in high schools, and we go into a lot of detail about that. 5th through 12th graders, we've done, I believe, 17 school presentations so far. And don't worry, I'm masked up and socially distanced away from the kids, of course, either in an auditorium or way far away with that. But this week I was in Buckland, Kansas, the home of Eddie Sutton, of course, the late Eddie Sutton, the longtime college coach and legend. I was there earlier this week, and then I was in Sedan. So it was a light week this week, just 2, because the week before we had 11. And this next week, I believe there will be 3. So I will be in Greensburg, Kansas, which was hit by the tornado a few years ago. And it still seems like a brand new town to me, but I'll be at Kiowa County High School on Monday, and some other ones starting to add up. But that's really cool to be on those tours and talk to the kids and be in some of those towns, because as I talked about it, there's some really cool stuff that you see across the state of Kansas that maybe you don't know about unless you actually go to the town.
And once again, we're back to 8-man football, Hill City. And Hoxie leading 24-0. A big game up in Overland Park. Lawrence leading St. Thomas Aquinas 32-27. Lawrence with the football, trying to continue to control this ball and run the clock a little bit. They'd love to get in the end zone again. And real quick, back to Hayes. Dodge City Red Demons finally on the board, have just scored a touchdown. So that's going to make it 23-6 with the extra point coming up for the Red Demons. So the shutout is over in Hayes. 9:51 left to go in that football game. And Dodge City on the board for the first time tonight. Hayes with a really terrific defensive effort tonight, as they have obviously shut down this offense from Dodge City for most of the evening until now. Dodge City going for 2 after the touchdown. Alden Nedler out of the shotgun, number 9, the quarterback for Dodge City. And he's going to, we got a little razzle-dazzle reverse here, and it's going nowhere. Hayes High Indians not fooled on that play. Wow.
It seems like we got a really good game going out in western Kansas as we expected. Cheney 28, Holcomb 21 in the fourth quarter of that one. That's a very good big-time 3A district matchup. Game's going final. Riverside over Atchison County 22-0. Hayden over Santa Fe Trail 49-14. Linden over Central Heights 49-0. Republic County over St. Mary's 40-0. Centralia and Beloit, that game just scheduled at the last minute, Leon. Beloit was 3A last year. Centralia could play 8-man if they want. They're defending 1A champs. They win 36-6 in that one. Riverton beating Uniontown 28-8. Olpe over Jackson Heights 35-0. Of course, Silver Lake dominating McLeod 49-8 tonight. Holton over Hiawatha 60-0 as more scores come in across the state of Kansas from Scores in Kansas, powered by Eddie's Toyota.
And once again, back to that game at in Hoxie. Hoxie leading Hill City 24-0. The interesting part of this game, as we mentioned before, when we checked in on it originally in the third quarter, late in the third quarter, it was 2-0 Hoxie. And then they scored, got a 2-point conversion, and then they have scored a couple more touchdowns and make it 24-0. But, you know, we've seen several low-scoring games this year in 8-man football. I'm not sure what the explanation would be there for that. Usually very high-scoring games. Is now the ringnecks of a bad snap here, and going to be tackled for a big loss.
Yeah, 2-0 is very rare to see in 8-man football. Yeah, you see 1-0 on some of their scores because the team's forfeited sometimes, but you don't see 2-0, or maybe you see a 96-80 game. And we've talked about that on this show, Leon. If a game happens to be 42-18, let's say, and people think, oh, well, they dominated. Not so fast in 8-man football. You don't see a lot of close scores out there. Usually it's one team that kind of runs away with it. So if it's a 48-32 type of game, that means it's a really good high school football game.
Once again, back in Overland Park, Aquinas and Lawrence High Lions leading 32-27. Aquinas has always had an answer, and they scored moments ago to cut the lead to 5, but as they did not get that. Did they go for 2 on that? Yeah, they did, and did not get it. Now Lawrence High will try a little screen pass here on the far sideline. Let's check in.
First down.
Just a little wheel route. They knew the pressure was coming. Devin Neal, a little bit of a wheel route, gets open. That's a great call against the blitz. You know they're blitzing there. You know they're coming. And that was a great play call by Coach Rampy.
Halfback screen. You got to love it.
Yeah, and it wasn't even really a screen. It's just a simple wheel route. There was no blockers in front of him. You don't want to have blockers in front
of
him.
Hoxie Hill City game has gone final. Hoxie does go on to win that game 24-0 against Steve Rampy, the head coach of Lawrence, one of the great coaches and successful coaches in Kansas history, against Randy Dreiling. And Mike Snow pointed out, even though it's the first time they've met, they certainly know each other. I forgot that Randy's son, Nate Dreiling, was a coach on the same staff at Pittsburgh State with Steve Rampy. As that's an incomplete pass for Lawrence.
Yep, and their sons, of course, are friends. Nate Dreiling, a 4-time All-American at Pittsburgh State. Of course, you know, he was playing there whenever Steve Rampy got the job and won the national title together. And then I believe that, I may be wrong on this, but Zach Rampy is one of my good friends. Was just at his wedding this summer. He won the Simone Trophy back in 2006. And, of course, Zach and Nate coached together at Humboldt High School when they both got out of college. I don't know if they lived together, but I think that they did. But they're good friends as well. And, of course, Grant Dreiling, of course, he's a good friend of mine as well. Randy Dreiling's son, the older son, that played quarterback for the Salthawks back in the day, didn't play college football. So very close to both of those families and know those guys very well. And it's kind of hard to believe that they've never squared off, but some years Hutch in 6A, Blue Valley 5A, or vice versa. Both those programs kind of move back and forth.
See if Lawrence can score here.
On the run, gets about 5 yards on 1st and goal.
Again, Lawrence High trying to add another score here, leading 32-27, and to give you an indication of my age, you talked about Zach Rampy. I covered that Simone Award ceremony when he won that year. He was a terrific football player, obviously, but he didn't look like a football player in street clothes. He always amazed me. He's like, this is the guy. This is the quarterback. But he was a tough little guy.
Yeah, he's maybe 5'10 and a half, and I don't know what he was. He's a pretty thick kid, but fast kid, and played at Emporia. Started there for a year or so, and then had a lot of concussions, and then hung it up and decided to be a student coach and was a GA, and then he was the head coach at Shawnee Mission North last year, and now he's got out of coaching. He's selling real estate, and he does coach, though, as a volunteer assistant at the Shawnee Mission Northwest program. So he's played these guys last week and coaches for Bo Black.
Okay, the ball marked now at the the 2-yard line, and Lawrence trying to get the play in, and we're going to check in and see if they can punch this into the end zone for the touchdown.
First down, so get the touchdown first.
Here's Neal, runs it to his right,
he's a little short.
And he is short of the goal line.
But now it's going to depend on the spot. It looks like you're inside the 1, and it was a good play call to not have a negative play. So now let's see who's going to call the timeout here.
We're going to have a timeout there as Lawrence tries to decide what to do here. As Aquinas trying to come up with some kind of goal line stand with a timeout on the field, with Lawrence leading 32-27. And our first look here, this is St. James Academy taking on Rutgers, Kansas City, Missouri team. Of course, the powerhouse in KC Mo. And the Rutgers leading 44-21 with just over 5 minutes left to go in the fourth quarter. Rutgers, that game, a home game for them at the Rock.
In the first year without Tony Severino since what year? I mean, that's been a long time.
Yeah. They've had a terrific run of coaches. And honestly, the name of the coach before Tony Severino escapes me, but they had a dynasty before Tony, and he just built upon that. And now Kelly Donahoe, who comes over from their biggest rival, Blue Springs, is now the head coach in his first year at Rockhurst. Terrific facilities there, a great stadium. Is that game being played? That looks like that might be played at Bishop Miege, where St. James plays their home games.
Yeah, it could be. That doesn't really – I'm not familiar with Rockhurst as much, but kind of looks like the Dixon-Dahl Stadium.
Yeah. As what do we got going on here? Lawrence, let's check in. Touchdown.
So, again, you put all those playmakers there, those goal line hands guys. They put them all to the right. Use Graham Huff as a blocker. And then, bam, you've got Devin Neal right behind him. They get the touchdown.
Barring a miracle, it's about time to turn out the lights and the party's over. The Lions are about to move ahead to 5-0.
Yeah, making this a
all right, thank you, Dandy Don Meredith there as the Lawrence High putting up a big score there and finally get an extra point, 39-27. By the way, that game is at Rockhurst. There's the big R in the middle of the field. That's in your upper right, St. James Academy, crossing the state line, literally on State Line Road as Rockhurst High School is located. As back to Hayes High. Dodge City had just scored a touchdown, did not get the extra point, 23-6. Hayes with the football moving, and just under 8 minutes to go in this game. Looks like Hayes will wrap up the Western Athletic Conference regular season title with this win tonight. By the way, we got a pretty good game out in Mays right now as Mays South, I believe, now leads 24-21. Wait, that's an older score. We'll try to get that up to date. My mistake there. These scores continue to come in on this week number 6 of high school football across the state of Kansas, and week number 6 for the Kansas Football Friday Show presented by Sports in Kansas. So we bring you live action from all across the state, including right here in Hayes at Lewis Field on the campus of Fort Hays State. Hayes High Indians against the Dodge City Red Demons. Michael Quaid, our own Michael Quaid, providing us with the video here tonight. And Hayes with a big run to the right side, a lot of room to run, and now a nice tackle, though, at the ankles across the 45-yard line of Dodge City.
Got a good game going on in the Centennial League as well. Washburn Rural and Manhattan High School tied at 24 with 1:54 remaining in the fourth quarter. Just saw a tweet coming in from Rick Peterson of the Topeka Capital Journal on that one. Also, shout out to Osborne, of course, who won a state title a year ago. Hit heavy by graduation, but beat a very good Thunder Ridge team tonight. And how about this? This is low scoring as well for 8-man. 18-12. So you're right, Leon. There are some low-scoring 8-man football games out there. And Labette County, they get their first win of the season, beating Coffeyville Field Kinley 16-13. They've been in about 3 other games this year. We're 0-5, but finally get that first win of the season. So also Blue Valley North leading Blue Valley Northwest 34-20 with 3 minutes and 20 seconds remaining in the game there in a showdown of 2 pretty darn good schools up in the Blue Valley area.
You know, we kind of attribute everything crazy this season to the pandemic. I'm not sure, though, can we blame low-scoring 8-man football games on the pandemic? I'm not sure what the connection there would be, but maybe. Just the lack of early preparation or something. I don't know.
Yeah, there are a lot of rusty teams out there, and you can definitely see that at some of the bigger schools, but I don't know what the factor is for some of the 8-man programs. And a lot of the smaller towns that I've been in, I don't know what the testing protocol is or what, but they've not experienced, maybe because it's traffic coming in and out of the town in small town America. You just don't have that in some of these non-transit cities. Whereas if you're Pittsburgh, Kansas, there's a lot of different people coming from a lot of different places, or Topeka or Hayes or wherever that happens to be. But if you are Weskin, Kansas, or somewhere like that, there's not a lot of people coming in and out of some of these places.
By the way, we were watching Dodge City, of course, in Hayes tonight, kind of our feature game up in Hayes, a Western Athletic Conference matchup. Another WAC game tonight. Liberal has defeated Great Bend 22-14, and kind of got to give it up for Liberal. They've really bounced back after a tough and somewhat embarrassing loss in the opening season up in Goodland. Remember, the Goodland the coaching staff had to be quarantined. They brought the superintendent of schools and the athletic director in to coach that game. Smaller school. They beat Liberal that night, and everybody thought, boy, that team, they're going to struggle. They lost to Dodge City 35-0, but Liberals bounced back with some nice wins. They beat Garden City, and tonight they defeat Great Bend 22-14.
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice little bit of a turnaround for them, a little bit of energy in their program. They lost Cyrus Dunlap last year. Of course, his dad, the coach out there. So it's a nice little spark for them. And, Great Bend's going to be sitting at the bottom of 4A on the West, but there are a lot of teams on that 4A West that are capable of defeating anybody because it's wide open. Some other scores as we go final across the state. Smith Center, Beanville 19-7 tonight. Of course, those have been some showdowns here as of recent, but Plainville hit heavy by graduation. Hoisington defeating Ellsworth 37-7. Rose Hill over Mulvane 46-6. Riley County beating Council Grove 61-6. La Crosse beating the Coyotes of Kinsley 72-20. DeSoto over Shawnee Heights 63-21. How about this? Capon flexing their muscles 56-0 over Garden City tonight. And Wichita Northwest, of course, a rival school of theirs is Wichita Heights. Wichita Heights has had some pretty good football teams. Wichita Northwest 56, Wichita Heights 21 final.
Wow, again, Northwest can put up some points. But speaking of points, we talked about this last week, too. Wichita East has been a bit of a surprise in the City League. They scored, they won big again last night. They put up, I think, 80 points. They, 60 points. And I think last night they scored 84 in their victory. So, pretty amazing. By the way,
yeah, they've had
Chet,
a nice.
The last score I got, we're talking about Highland Park trying to break that 54-game losing streak. They were leading 38-18 at half at the end of the third quarter. Now, this probably needs to be updated because I'm sure they're deep into the fourth quarter. But at the end of the third, Highland Park was leading Topeka West 50-45. So hold on. Wow. Topeka West coming back. Meanwhile, Aquinas trying to get back here as it's in the fourth quarter, and they trail 39-27. Do they have another comeback in them? As Mike Snow indicated, this offense does not lend itself to comebacks, even though they did have a long pass play to get their last touch, to set up their last touchdown.
And they have the talent to throw it if they need to, and they've had people within the program to throw it. They just don't throw it a lot. But when they do it, they've been effective with throwing it. We've seen Division I receivers on this team. Heck, we've seen Division I receivers transfer out of this program because maybe they didn't throw enough. It's going to be run heavy. It's no surprise. You look at any team that, Randy Dreiling has had. But don't let them fool you all the way. They still can throw the ball a little bit. They just don't do it that often. And sometimes that's difficult to do, Leon, like you talked about, trailing by 12 points here in the fourth quarter.
At the same time, it's sometimes an advantage for a team that runs the ball and then throws. I know the old days of Oklahoma's wishbone of Barry Switzer, he always talked about as one of the most efficient passing offenses he's ever had because, they'd be 5 for 5 on pass plays. They'd catch they'd wear the defense down, running, and all of a sudden they throw the ball and they got a guy wide open.
We had some Pittsburgh State football teams when they would run the split back veer for years. I mean, Pittsburgh State run, and when they'd have a 1,000-yard passer, it'd be a big deal. And then when somebody would pass for like 1,800 yards, 2,000, it would be a record. Meanwhile, other teams are throwing for 3,000, 4,000, and all of a sudden you'd have a tight end that would maybe get all league, and he'd have 10 receptions the whole year, and 9 of them would be for touchdowns because it'd be a high percentage play that they knew that they were going to complete when they were passing.
And here Aquinas with the pass completion. And now a really good game at Washburn Rural and Manhattan High. This game is tied 24-24 with just 44 seconds left to go. Let's check in and watch this one. As Washburn Rural, the home team, in the all blue.
At the Indian 35-yard line.
Junior Blues with the football. Again, 44 seconds to go in this game. 24-24 against the Manhattan High Indians.
Carlgren, the ball carrier.
As, boy, this is a good one. Of course, Manhattan High, coached by former Dodge City Red Demon quarterback Joe Schartz, also former Washburn University quarterback Joe Schartz. At one time, I don't know if he still does, but he did have the passing record at Washburn. Been a head coach at Manhattan High for a long time, and he's got a good one going tonight. Manhattan and Washburn Rural tied up 24-24. We'll keep an eye on that one. As what we got going on with St. Thomas, Aquinas, and Lawrence. As Lawrence leading in that game, and as Lawrence just, it's 39-27. And I believe that's your ball game. Yes, Lawrence Lions have won. It's always kind of hard to tell as they don't shake hands now. They just kind of wave at each other and walk off the field. I thought there was a timeout on the field, but there you go. As Lawrence is going to walk off the field. Big win for Lawrence over St. Thomas Aquinas tonight. And Steve Rampy gets that. Goes 1-0 against Randy Dreiling. It goes back to Hayes High, Dodge City, and Hayes. Hayes going to wrap this one up as we're down to the final few minutes. Hayes leading 23-6. Okay, here we go. This is the one. 24-24, Washburn Rural tied with Manhattan. The Junior Blues in the all blue. I believe it's third down. 36 seconds to go in the game. And they're going to try to pass the ball under pressure, and good defense here by Manhattan.
The ball carrier. Forward progress to the 31-yard line.
And that'll bring up, we believe, 4th down and 5. And are they going to try to kick a field goal here? Yes, they are.
Wow.
The football is the 38-yard line.
48-yard attempt. He's got the distance.
No good.
Oh, man. Oh, that was close. And that was a tough play to execute all the way around because they had to get out on the field quickly. They got the snap, got the ball down, and he certainly had the distance, just not there. And this game looks like we're probably going to go to overtime with just 6 seconds left, tied 24-24. Wow.
And it's been kind of a weird season for Manhattan, and you may look at their record and think they're down a little bit. Not so fast because they've lost to a very good Junction City team, and, of course, that rivalry matchup by 7. They lost on the road to Topeka Hayden in a game that wasn't supposed to happen by 14. I'm telling you right now, Topeka Hayden is a major contender in 3A. I know it's weird calling them 3A because they could beat a lot of 6A, 5A programs. And then their other loss was Topeka Seaman. Glenn O'Neill, I maybe should have had them as maybe one of the surprise teams as well because I believe they were 2-7 last year. And here they are, this year as a team to watch in Class 5A. So, never judge some of those teams sometimes because of who they play. And Seaman, of course, is 6-1 on the season, beating Emporia tonight.
Hey, one of your other surprise teams you had, we were talking about earlier, Hutchinson Salthawks. They win again tonight. Hutchinson 42, Salina South 17.
Wow.
And this is, again, Andover, the Trojans at home against Valley Center Hornets. Andover High and then Andover Central was leading Salina Central earlier. Well, we had some fans offering some advice there. I'm trying. Chet, can you see the score on this one? I'm just going to flat out ask. I cannot see that scoreboard.
Andover,
okay, 28-13 Andover on top. I saw
13.
the 28. Now they lead Valley Center.
And got some finals for you coming in across the state of Kansas. This is a little bit of a weird score. Wichita West 53, Wichita North 2 final.
Ooh.
Oakley 50, Ellenwood 0, Andover Central 27, Salina Central 7, Eudora 20, Ottawa 3, McPherson 18, Buellers in a really good game there. Topeka Seaman 59, Emporia 3. Kiowa County 53, Pratt Skyline 34, Arc City 22, Goddard Eisenhower 14.
Yeah, another score I just came down. Osborne over Thunder Ridge tonight. And now I've lost it, but Osborne won that game as Thunder Ridge up there in Kensington.
And two really hard hits there, Leon. I don't know if you saw that, but
yes.
Hazelhorst put a heck of a hit there. And then after that, you get hit by the K-State guy, the quarterback does. Then right after that, you get hit by the other guy that's a junior that has more offers, and Gavin Myers. So you talk about some guys that can bring the wood, 22 and 40. Big-time hitters, big-time players for the Hayes High Indians.
Keeping those guys in late in the fourth quarter, 2:27 to go, and Hayes on top 23-6. Dodge City trying to get something, throwing it downfield, incomplete.
Got some more final scores coming in for you across the state. Peabody Burns 38, Caldwell 18. Colony Crest improves to 6-0 on the season. Of course, Colony Crest was a team last year on 11-game losing streak, so a bit of a turnaround there. Humboldt 26, Jayhawk Lynn 20, Maxville 50, St. John 0, Goshall 56, Fairfield 7, Madison 60, Chase County 12. Madison, major contender on the 8-man 1 East.
Colony Crest, do you have them as one of your surprise teams or one of the, I can't remember the ranking, going back to that.
Surprise teams this year. You know, they're in a district, Leon, that there's a lot of teams that are struggling. So we know that 4 of the 6 are going to make the playoffs. So all of a sudden, when you have 5 district games, there's going to be somebody on there that comes in with a losing record that's going to turn their season around based on their opponents, because there's really not that clear-cut team that in some of these districts are going to win. Now, for other teams, you may have a district where everybody has a winning record and you're going to be battling for that 4th spot, because now in 3A, 2A, 1A, 8-man 1, 8-man 2 football, we have, of course, those extended districts where 4 of the 6 make it. When I played, only one team came out. That was the last year of it. The year after, for several years until a few years ago, we had 2 of the 4 coming out. And now, of course, in recent memory, 4A through 6A, we don't even do districts. Everybody makes the playoffs.
Dodge City, incomplete pass there. Nearly caught it. And again, the Red Demons trying to get something on the board late in this game, trailing 23-6 at Hayes. Hayes on top with 2:12 left to go in that game. Your upper right screen is that's at Washburn Rural, and that is Manhattan High and Washburn Rural. And this game has gone to overtime, and looks like the Junior Blues will have the first possession and not going anywhere on first down. And the overtime rules, much like college football, except they don't start at the 25-yard line. By the way, this rule originated in the state of Kansas. I don't know if you knew that, Chet.
Really? Did not know that.
And of course, it evolved into what college football uses. But, yeah, back in the early 70s. As it's now second down, I believe, for Washburn Rural. Second down here on their first first possession of the overtime. And the quarterback keeper, and he's into the end zone for the touchdown. What a terrific effort.
Making something out of nothing there, and really kind of a busted play with nowhere to go, but everywhere to go with a wide open middle for the big score to put them up on top.
Almost turned into a broken quarterback draw play, basically, as he broke a couple of tackles, but that was not a draw. That was just, like you said, a bit of a broken play. There was nothing there. I think he's going back to pass and just made a terrific decision and a terrific effort to get in the end zone. And Washburn Rural has the advantage, as the extra point is good, and they'll take a 31-24 to lead. Manhattan will now have the next possession here in the overtime. As we continue to wind down week number 6 of high school football across the state of Kansas here on Kansas Football Friday, presented by Sports in Kansas. And one thing that's been predictable this season, I think, is it's unpredictable. We've seen a lot of just surprises, the way scoring has gone. Teams we expected to be really, really good have been, but we've had a lot of surprise teams, and it's going to be really interesting to see how this all plays out as we get into the postseason later. Hey, we got another 8-man. This was 2 good 8-man teams, Clifton, Clyde, and Hanover. Of course, Hanover a perennial power. Clifton, Clyde, I think, also ranked pretty high in 8-man 2.
I could recognize that field from anywhere. I've been to that Hanover field multiple times there, and of course, such a good program. Coach Hoyer does an outstanding job there. Of course, his brother is the head coach at nearby Marysville there as well. So Hanover is always in the mix of 8-man 2, and very good program, and a game that wasn't supposed to happen. So a last-minute type of deal here. And I'm not sure exactly what's going on there, to be quite honest, as a long way away on our camera angle, and nothing going on right now. Let's go back to Manhattan and Washburn Rural, because Manhattan now trying to answer back here in the overtime, trailing 31-24. They got the last at bat, if you will, here. They know what they got to do as they go up the middle. They bring up second down here in the OT. Washburn Rural stops them. They win the game.
Eric Schnurren on the tackle, also 10 Ty Weber.
The Junior Blues in all blue here at home tonight.
And Leon, back in the day, weren't there a lot of big-time battles with Manhattan and Lawrence in football?
Well, those battles usually were in the state championship games, Class 6A. Manhattan was on the west side of the bracket back in the 80s and 90s. And here's a pass play into the end zone, and I believe, yes, touchdown, Manhattan. They got a chance to tie it.
Big decision coming here.
Yeah, they can win it with a 2-point conversion here. Yeah, Manhattan had a difficult time getting over that hump against Lawrence, and finally in 1989, I believe it was, Manhattan, with the head coach Lou Lane, went on to win the state championship over the Lawrence High Lions. Took care of them pretty good, if I remember right. As let's see what Joe Schartz, the head coach of Manhattan, has decided to do. I think they're going for 2.
I think it's the right decision in a situation like this. You got a momentum, you scored, and you can go for the win right here and put the team away.
And here he goes with a 2-point conversion, and he got it. There's your ball game.
Win.
What a gutsy call and a play. Just got into the end zone, and the Manhattan High Indians are celebrating a 32-31 victory over Washburn Rural. Wow, what a victory. What a play there. Meanwhile, down at up in Hayes, the Hayes High Indians, Dodge City was about to score. And Hayes came up with a pick six at the goal line, I believe. And Hayes now going for the extra point here. Wow, that's a killer for Dodge City. Not that they were going to win this game, but looked like they're about to get in the end zone and add some points. And then Hayes comes up with a pick six. Nearly a 100-yard play for the Indians as the extra point is up. And no good, but that'll make it 29-6. Hayes High on their way to victory as 47 seconds left. But how about that decision from Joe Schartz and the Manhattan High Indians?
Yeah, it's a gutsy call, and I've seen the call happen a lot in high school football. You have a chance to end the game. You have nothing to lose, really, in this situation because you've already lost a couple games this year. You have a chance to put the team away. I like the call. Of course, senior leadership, a lot of seniors on this team, and outstanding finish there, 32-31. Manhattan with, of course, the big win. And you look at this Centennial League, of course, this year, and, you know, who is that team this year that's going to be, you know, the best? Is that Junction City? Is that Topeka Seaman? Is that Hayden, of course, who doesn't play that full schedule because they're down in 3A? I think we have some quality teams this year. For you know, multiple years it's been Topeka, but they dropped off a little bit, and you would think they would because of who all they lost in Guy Thomas and their head coach from last year. And this Washburn Rural squad, of course, they've struggled early on in the season, losing their first two games, but they won two out of their last three coming into this, including a tough loss to Junction City a couple of weeks ago as well, and losing to overtime tonight, but beating Emporia by 7 last week. So Steve Bueller and Washburn Rural have been in some battles this year. They'll be at Highland Park, at Hummer Park this next week. So shout out to Coach Schartz in Manhattan, Dane Aschenbrenner, the senior quarterback, the 3-year starter. A lot of experience for him as Manhattan picking up a big victory on the road tonight to improve, of course, to 3-3 on the season. Record a little bit deceiving, though. Lost a couple close games.
And you kind of called that 2-point conversion. You said, why not? Instead of continuing the overtime and tying the game, they went for the victory and got it.
And that's why I'm not a football coach.
Well, you called it as we watched Dodge City and Hayes wrapping it up here. Hayes on their way to the victory, 29-6. The Hayes High Indians will capture a regular season title of the Western Athletic Conference with this victory over Dodge City. A wild game going on in Mays. To give you an update on that one, Mays now has come from behind to take a 42-38 lead over Mays South with 57 seconds left to go in that game. And that's going to do it for another edition of Kansas Football Friday, week number 6, as we watch the Dodge City Hayes game wrap up. Red Demons trying to... Now they're just going to take a knee, and that's going to be the game. Hayes goes on to win it 29-6. Chet, enjoyed it. It's been an exciting night, and congratulations again on your award down there in Frontenac. And I'm sure you're going to you got a lot more to do coming up tonight, or you're going to enjoy yourself.
I got a lot more to do. We're going to recap some stuff, get some stuff ready for tomorrow. But, yeah, it was great to be in Frontenac tonight. And thanks to Mike Snow and you and, of course, Mike Nelson, everybody behind the scenes, Michael Quaid for putting all this together. And, of course, replacing me while I was off air tonight. Hopefully you guys had a great discussion on fried chicken and who else knows what all you guys talked about. But it's an awesome night of football tonight. I think that the key thing that stood out to me was Lawrence is really good. They're on the 6A West this year. They're a definite contender that we got to factor in. Is it going to be Lawrence or Derby? Is somebody else going to be into the equation as well? And, of course, an outstanding win tonight as well for Cheney over Holcomb, 31-28 in a highlighted matchup there. And, of course, we had the 8-man game up earlier, Hanover over Clifton Clyde as well in that one. So a lot of scores going in final. And how about those Fort Scott Tigers being quarantined for a while? They were 1-8 last year. They're 4-0. They beat Chanute. They're in the driver's seat right now for the Southeast Kansas League. So we've had some teams open up the eyes of a lot of people across the state of Kansas. Now, how much do we really know about them? We don't know. I'm just knocking on wood that the season keeps continuing and we're going to get those playoffs and things like that. But I'm ready for week number 7. Of course, next week, be sure to check out all of our recaps tomorrow, powered by Mammoth Sports Construction. Also, a big shout out to Sign Brothers in downtown Pittsburgh, taking care of all your apparel needs, banners, logos, signs, all that stuff, for providing, of course, the opportunity for me to record remotely tonight from their studio in beautiful downtown Pittsburgh. But shout out for covering for me tonight, and it was fun to be on for a week number 6 of the high school football season.
All right, Chad, thank you so much. We look forward to week number 7 next week. And for my co-host, Chad Copeland, our producer-director, Mike Nelson, our field producer, and the man on the camera in Hayes tonight, providing us with video, Michael Quaid, and on graphics at the home office in Atlanta, Georgia, Paul Nelson. I'm Leon Liebel. I've been your host for another edition of Kansas Football Friday, presented by Sports in Kansas. We hope you have a great night and a great weekend. We'll see you next week, everybody.